Hey everyone, welcome to the PechaKucha number 58, our first online PechaKucha night live from Cape Town. A massive thanks for joining us this evening. I can see if I have a look at our stats, we've got over 101 attendees that have joined us thus far. Super thanks for all your support. And like I said, this is our first time. So if there are some glitches, if there are some technical problems, I do apologize in advance, but we're really looking forward to it. And we've got some amazing speakers tonight. And this just really makes it possible. The speakers sharing their experiences, sharing their passion to ultimately reach across, to everyone. And fortunately, we've got the ability to reach more people than is possible normally when we have the offline PechaKucha nights. But for this number 58 PechaKucha Cape Town night, this is going to be one for the books as the first one. So a welcome to everyone for making sure that they attend tonight and doing one that is literally a first for all of us. So I think if I can introduce everyone, if all of our panelists, our speakers, and the volunteer committee, if you can all turn your cameras on, I'd love to share you and show everyone how many people are actually involved in this evening. So if everyone can just turn your cameras on. All right, so we've got our speakers, we've got our volunteer committee. So just to give you a background, PechaKucha Cape Town is organized, myself and Kate, we're the co-city organizers for PechaKucha Cape Town. And there is a volunteer committee that supports us. We all volunteer just to make sure that we can continue the impact, the positive impact that PechaKucha has on the Cape Town community. So I think, yeah, there's someone's mute off. All right, so I think then to get started, let me just give you a bit of background about PechaKucha. So Kate, can you go to the next slide, please? Mm-hmm. Perfect. All right. So PechaKucha Cape Town. What is PechaKucha? So it's from Japanese. It means chit chat. And the special thing around the format for this evening is that we have a 20 by 20 format. What that means is every speaker that comes on tonight is going to have 20 seconds per slide and 20 slides only. So that means that you've literally only got 6 minutes and 40 seconds as a speaker to share and to reach across to the audience. And I think that what's special about this, and we often joke, in our offline nights is, if the speaker's brilliant, it's an epic time for you to get everything in 6 minutes and 40 seconds. And if the speaker isn't necessarily that great, then of course there's only 6 minutes and 40 seconds for you. So, but we are very confident for our speakers tonight. We've got a huge variety of topic and just super cool people. We got to know everyone last night when we had a little dress rehearsal. And I think what's special about this is people are coming from different places. And I think what's super nice about it as well is that we are sitting in a position where we have someone from Canada. We have, the founder Mark directly from Tokyo, Japan. So I think it's a great reach that we have tonight. All right, next slide, please. If you'd like to follow us on social media with PechaKucha Cape Town specifically, please on Instagram, PechaKucha CT and PechaKucha Cape Town on Facebook. And of course, if you wanna apply as a speaker, I think it's an incredible opportunity, and you do not have to be a completely polished, well trained speaker. If you've got a passion, if you've got something that you want to share, please apply online at pechakucha.co.za. And it's PechaKucha, PechaKucha, one word. And I think, Kate, can you please include the poll for this evening? Because I think what will be great is for us to get to know you as the attendees, the audience for tonight, which makes this possible. We've got over 133 people thus far that have just joined. So I think it's super great, and I'd love to get to know you. So if you share, if you just on the poll that's just appeared before your screen, if you maybe share on the one question, which is where you live streaming from, Cape Town, South Africa, the rest of South Africa, or outside South Africa. So that'll be super interesting for us to find out. And then in terms of if it's your first time attending, I think if it's your first time attending, that will be great to know. And then lastly, how did you actually hear about us? Because it was actually quite hilarious during this week. I think the ticket sales, were literally 50 people, and normally offline, the PechaKucha nights that happen in Cape Town, we sell out 400 tickets every single night that we have it. And I think it was a typical Cape Townian style where in the last 2 days, we literally sold 150 tickets. So I think it's really would be great to know how you heard about us. Was it social media? Was it your family or friends? Our email campaign, or I think other, I don't know where other would be, but I mean, we'll give it a try. So Kate, how are we doing with that?
Yeah, we got quite a few votes in, 116 of 141, and they're going up.
All right, perfect. Okay, so is it possible then to show everyone what the results are, so we can have a look?
Yeah, I'm gonna end the poll.
Cool.
Hold up. Come along and share results. There we go.
All right. Okay. So we've got 84% of our attendees from Cape Town, South Africa, 8% from the rest of South Africa, and we've got 8% from outside South Africa. So that's great. And then first time, wow, flip. We've got 32% that are that is your first time. A massive welcome. Thank you for joining. We hope that you enjoy this evening and you love the format and the conciseness of the presentations. And then I think also to our loyal fans, 68%, I think that's brilliant. And again, just if it wasn't for you buying a ticket, if it wasn't for you doing and supporting us, this wouldn't be happening for us to spread positivity, especially within this time that we're in now. And then how did you hear? I think family and friends is the winner. Which is I think evident to just the fact that word of mouth is still the absolute best way to to get things going, and that means that people do care and they actually do spread. So I thank you so much for that. Great, thanks so much, Kate. Let's go to the next one. The next slide. All right, and a massive thanks to our sponsors for this evening. All right, so normally this happens offline, so our sponsors happen offline most of the time, but a big thanks to Cape Talk. I was on the show earlier this week, so that was great to just spread the word. Cricket for being the platform for us, whether you're streaming live on the Cricket site or you're on the YouTube site, a big welcome, or directly from Zoom as well. And then to Loud Rabbits for organizing the design side of things, big thank you for that. And I think just to close off, where we're looking for tonight, we've got 9 speakers. We're going to do the first 5 speakers, and then we're going to go into like a 20-minute interval. So we're going to try to keep it similar to the offline times where you can go refresh on a drink. I hear that everyone had a rumor that there was the liquor ban was coming back in Cape Town or South Africa. So I think from what I've heard is everyone's basically built their own liquor stores in their houses. So I think it's definitely interesting to see the dynamics and the priorities of everyone. But so if you have been one of those people, you'll definitely have some wine to get at the interval. So we'll definitely do that after the 5th speaker. And something different is I'm going to have a conversation with the first 5 speakers in that interval. So you can hang around and we'll have an informal discussion just to get to know the speakers as well. And then we'll go into our following 4 speakers. And afterwards, we're going to get all the speakers so that if you have any Q&As, and bearing in mind, chuck your Q&As in the section at the bottom if you're looking on your desktop, that would be great, and put it in the chat as well, and we'll look to do that as well. So I think without further ado, can we please go to the first slide of our first speaker. So Andrew Cole from Canada. So Andrew Cole, if you don't know this incredible man, he immigrated to Canada, and he was actually the city organizer for PechaKucha Capetown, and he made a huge impact and allowed it to really go to the trajectory that it is today. And so I think, Andrew, massive welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I think it's going to be great to listen to your chat tonight about, or your chit chat tonight about the spaces between a covert perspective. So Andrew, without further ado, you take the show.
Around the corner from my house in Toronto is this sculpture. It speaks of the importance of space and the desire for human interaction. The masks were added when COVID emerged, and since then, the sculpture has become more significant for me as I find myself socially isolated, unemployed, and confined to my home. Building on this quote, mistakenly attributed to Viktor Frankl, I want to talk about space, not space as in the final frontier, but the time and distance between things and people, small moments of happiness. As horrible as COVID has been, it has given me a better appreciation of how to welcome and embrace spaces between. First, some perspective on matter, as it's really a story of space. The typical model of an atom has proton and neutrons in the middle and electrons whizzing around. Unfortunately, it totally underrepresents how much of matter is actually space, with electrons, which of course is energy. Electrons are like hyperactive satellites. Think of an electron as the flash, flying around to create a huge red cloud. The space taken up by the cloud is about the size of Cape Town Stadium. But the center of the atom? Well, it's only the size of a cricket ball. It's pretty crazy, isn't it? Space provides extraordinary perspective, almost deceptively. What do you see in these pictures? A moon? A face? Do you see Little Red Riding Hood? A wolf? These images all demonstrate how so-called negative space can actually be something substantive and meaningful. This is a test pattern from the days of terrestrial analog TV. Originally, they were physical cards used to calibrate TV cameras. They evolved into what was visible when a transmitter was active, but no program was being broadcast. Essentially dead space between viewable TV content, something unimaginable today. Apologies to Whole Foods for bastardizing their logo, but if you think about it, even what we eat has space to be appreciated. Donuts, bread, crumpets, crackers, Aero chocolate bars, Swiss cheese, flings. We love what we eat as much as what isn't there. Consider what we drink. With yeast and sugar, we create the sparkle in champagne and beer. We add carbon dioxide to put the fizz in pop or sodas. Somehow, beverages are more refreshing with gas. The addition of space, as it were, makes drinks more interesting. It's a wonderful paradox. Bubbles create body. Which brings me to today and COVID-19. It has threatened the health of millions, separated all of us, and altered just about every aspect of our lives. But is there any good to be found in the pandemic? Can our global separateness have a silver lining? I think so. The coronavirus has kept us apart from family and friends, threatened hugging, denied two-cheek kisses, banished high fives. Elbow taps have replaced handshakes. We Zoom, we text using emojis to convey what we mean and feel. Relationships have been virtualized. But some good has happened in the social gaps we've been forced to create. Stuck at home, between jobs, and attempting to keep my 5-year-old entertained, I have found some profound spaces between. When my son went to school, I made his lunch in the morning, but never got to see him eat it. I choose an outfit for him, but had no idea what he did all day. Now, we enjoy meals together, and I read to him and get to watch him play with his friends, and he educates me on Paw Patrol. COVID has allowed me to be a better father, to appreciate the invisible work like parenting and maintaining a home. A negative situation has led to positive changes in how I view my roles and responsibilities. And in a strange way, I've become grateful to the virus. And while the crisis has forced us to avoid each other, in many ways, it has brought us closer to those we love. For example, I spend more time connecting with my immediate family than before. This includes weekly Zoom meetings in which we log in to laugh, chat, and even play Pictionary. Geographic space has become less relevant. Speaking of which, at the end of 2018, I moved back to Toronto after 12 years in Cape Town. It was hard to leave my family and friends in South Africa, and it's still hard. COVID has made it harder. But through my blog, mrcole.net, I'm able to share my observation, thoughts, and experiences to help cope with feeling so far away from others. And with more time spent at home and less cars on the road, I'm also observing more nature. I've even experienced more of it at home, with sightings of numerous birds, a coyote, a possum, North America's only marsupial, and this rather curious family of raccoons. Very cute vermin, really. My home, and specifically my garden, has become my sanctuary. It's where I ground myself, quite literally. Getting my hands in the dirt provides an outlet for creativity and a sense of accomplishment that is tangible, visible, and smellable. In my home, my two fur kids are constant sources of companionship and entertainment. Sometimes, when I'm on my laptop, Seymour, the fat and gluttonous one, loves to hop onto the table, stride across the keyboard, and get in my face, interrupting me with amorous purring until he gets attention. As they say, dogs have owners, cats have staff. COVID has helped me also to go within. Each morning I meditate, finding another space between with. And with this daily practice, I've become more relaxed and patient, and my quality of self-awareness has improved. With a mind that is more calm and clear, dare I say I've become a better dad. A global disaster has made me realize spaces between are all around and in us. We just need to be more mindful of them. The word disaster comes from the Italian disastro, which basically means bad star. As a planet, we were birthed from an exploded star. A disaster created the magnificence that is Earth, and eventually us. Think about it. Yes, COVID has been disastrous, but as much as it's caused pain and suffering, it shouldn't prevent us from choosing how we show up in the world. I encourage you to find, create, and embrace more spaces between. You'll find that in those spaces, there's much to be thankful for, and a lot of significance in the seemingly insignificant. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Andrew. How was it? Was this your first time actually going live online before presenting?
It is. It's terrifying.
Well, I think that's great. What time is it in Canada right now?
It's about 1:15, and I have a wife and child raring to get outside in this beautiful day. It's about 30 degrees. So I'm in the basement, and I'm very happy to be here.
Well, listen, I loved your your chit chat, and I think that I can relate to the one thing in terms of you spoke about gardening and getting involved there. I'm just about to get a dog, and I don't. It's more like it's a hamster. It's quite a small one. It's really small. And I try to put the kind of within the balcony, trying to just make sure it just doesn't jump off. And that's my DIY that I've got involved, and I would have never been able to do that or been interested if I never was in this environment. So I think you have to play on it positively as well.
Oh yeah, I've heard of lots of adoptions of animals over the holidays, and I think it's great. It's great to hear. Hopefully, people stay good parents.
Yeah, I agree. Or get even closer to their kids, right?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, and thank you so much for clocking in. If you're able to share with us in the interval, would love to have you there. But I really appreciate you spending your time. Looking forward to the rest.
Of course. Good luck to everyone else.
All right, brilliant.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers. All right, we've got. By the way, guys, if you want to place questions, please use on the bottom of your screen. You'll be able to ask any questions. If you have specific questions for a speaker, you're welcome to pop those questions there. And then in that interval, after the fifth speaker tonight, we're going to go into an informal chat. So if the speaker then is able to, they'll literally answer your question directly, which is going to be great. Perfect. All right, Mark. We've got Mark, and Mark is the founder of or the co-founder. He's been explicit with me on the co-founder aspect of PechaKucha, and I think Mark, just a massive thanks for being on board, and we'll chat afterwards, but off to you.
Thank you so much. I want to say a big hello from Tokyo. It's actually 2:15 a.m. in the morning here. So a big thank you to Grant and Kate and all the volunteers in Cape Town for putting on this event and for running PechaKucha so perfectly there. And also to Grant for running PechaKucha for so many years. Anyway, off we go. We're running. Those 20 slides are mine. So I'm Mark Dytham. I'm an architect in Tokyo, along with Aspi Klein and Yuki Nari Hisayama. We run Klein Dytham Architecture. That's our day job. And this is one of our projects. It's Ginza Place. It's on the epicenter, the crossroads of Ginza in Tokyo. This is another project. It's Leaf Chapel. It's a wedding chapel. When the groom picks up the bride's veil for the kiss, this veil swings open. It's perforated with 4,700 acrylic lenses. None of them leak because this is Japan and everything is precise. My day job is also, well, I have a night job too. One is running a big art space called Super Deluxe in the heart of Tokyo. And at the start of this event space, we didn't have enough events to fill it up. And it was the dawn of digital photography and Keynote on the Mac. And we started running these show and tell events. We're architects, as you know, and we've got lots of really interesting stories to tell about our projects and site visits. And we would like to have a show and share with other architects. And we started this show and tell format called PechaKucha. PechaKucha means the sound of chit chat in Japanese. It's an onomatopoeia, so PechaKucha, PechaKucha, PechaKucha. And off we went. But you know what it's like? Architects talk too much, especially about that boring handrail detail. So we limited people to 20 images for 20 seconds each, 6 minutes, 40 seconds, and the next presenter's on. And it's become really the world stage, and has allowed people who don't normally have a platform, like this construction worker who builds construction fences around some of the tallest buildings in Tokyo. He's a hidden hero. And this has become a great platform for people in the community to speak about what they do. You never know who's around you. And so it's been a really, really great way to invigorate communities. So from a one-off event in Tokyo, PechaKucha has grown over 17 years to 1,233 cities, and Cape Town's one of our favorites. And I was lucky enough to visit Cape Town a couple of times for design in Daba, and you do a fantastic job there. So thank you very much. So why has PechaKucha become so popular, so successful? I think one of the reasons is that it's a very simple format. There's a very simple framework, just 20 slides, 20 seconds, and it's fun, it's fast, and it's friendly. And just to have a framework to hang your images on makes putting a presentation together really easy. And it's just images. There's no video. There's no lower bottom third with Anderson Cooper talking about stuff. We want you to look, listen, and think. And 20 seconds is quite long. So, yeah. And the other thing is there's a restriction, just like on Twitter. Here you've just got 400 seconds, and it's a level playing field. So whether you're a world's most famous architect or an architectural student, you just have 20 images for 20 seconds. And it's like a Big Mac. You always know what you're going to get, but PechaKucha Night is like a box of chocolates. You don't quite know what you're going to get depending on the presenter. The other great thing of it is it's just not a format. It's actually a community too. And there's a circular flywheel there. The format supports the community. The community supports the format. It goes round and round and just gets stronger and stronger. We grow by 10 cities a month in, month out. The community is really important. And when we had the big earthquake, tsunami, and the nuclear issues in Japan, the whole PechaKucha community got together to inspire Japan. It's been really, Japan's inspired the world with its design and its art. And at that really tough moment 9 years ago, the community got together to support Japan. And we started this notion of inspire Japan. And we started running PechaKucha events to capture all of the positivity and creativity that happened around this terrible moment. The presentation on the left is about what it was like to live in a temporary home. The presentation on the right was about a crowdsourced radiation detection system. So at this moment, with all these issues around the world and the pandemic, we set up Inspire the World, and we were trying to capture the positivity. The problem is that all of our events had stopped, and instead of having over 100 a month, we'd had very, very few. And so our first event was on the 9th of April. And since then, we've had over 20 events. Everybody talking about what the pandemic has caused with them. But there is so much positivity, which you will hear about tonight. So we're really, really amazed and thankful that this has gone on. We're capturing really interesting stories like No Designer or No Ziner. This is Tachikawa-san, who just takes a simple A4 clear folder with 2 cuts. You can turn it into a protective PPE mask. His video has been watched 5 million times online, and we were lucky enough to get him to talk about the whole project there. PechaKucha has been adopted in schools and universities and offices all around the world. And we brought out just a few weeks ago PechaKucha Create, which allows you to upload, voice, and share presentations online. So anybody can make a presentation like this and share it with the PechaKucha community. So please take a look over at PechaKucha.org. It's also allowed us to run competitions. This is called Isolation Transformed. It's our first global competition, and it's with the World Architecture Festival, which is a huge organization around the world. And we're looking for ideas about isolation and how we can help in that area. The competition's open until the 31st of August, and we really invite all architects, designers, and students to submit through 20 slides, 20 seconds. And earlier today, we had a really amazing global event with Frank Lloyd Wright. It's his 153rd birthday today. And we had an event with house owners all around America, bringing everybody together. We had over 1,400 people online, which is amazing. So I want to say thank you to Cape Town. I want to thank all of the organizers, all the volunteers, and everybody attending tonight. Thank you for supporting PechaKucha for so many sessions. You do a really fantastic job, and it's amazing that we can connect tonight. Thank you so much.
How's the mark?
How was that?
Hang on.
My dog's going crazy here, actually. That was putting me off. Sorry.
Well, thank you so much. But I'm pretty embarrassed here, because have I got PechaKucha wrong? I mean, and have we got PechaKucha pronounced wrong the entire time? I mean, have you had a hidden code here, or tell me a bit more?
No, so look, there's many ways to say PechaKucha, but so PechaKucha is the Japanese way. Everybody announces it, says PechaKucha. It's definitely not Project Tonight, and it's not Machu Picchu, and it's not but you can say anything you want, and it's absolutely fine. It's quite interesting. There was a university started running it, and the dean says, "Yeah, I've heard of that. I've heard of that presentation format that no one can pronounce." So it's become a charm point. I think, back in the beginning, it was a one-off event, and I mentioned him in the beginning. So Yukinari Hisayama came up with the name for our one-off event. And since then, as it's spread around the world, but it's as I say, it's a charm point, and I'm glad we didn't call it Talk 20 or 20 by 20, because we wouldn't be able to search for it online. PechaKucha has allowed us to do those global searches in the morning to see who's talking about us.
I agree, and I mean, yeah. So I think I'm gonna stick with PechaKucha, and I think that what's super great is, I mean, with the new platform that you've created called Create. Have you found there to be a massive traction? Because, just for the audience that's watching, can anyone just go to the Create site and just start from there?
Anyone go to the website, and you just basically register, you log in, and anybody can upload your presentations. We have several versions. The free version is free, and anybody can make presentations. We have a pro and a team version. The pro version allows you to keep the presentations private. So if you want to run sessions and events within in your office, you can do that. And the same for the team version, really for schools. So there's lots of classrooms and things like that. Okay. But the basic functionality is free, and it's been amazing with the presentations we've had uploaded. It really launched just about a month ago. We're still easing out a few teething problems, but please have a go. It's
brilliant. Well, I think. To everyone watching, if you've got kids, or if you've got anyone that you think would benefit from, whether it be a project that they have to do, an assignment, or anything like that, please share the PechaKucha Create platform, because like Mark said, it's for free for that first area, or for the particular presentation. So definitely check it out. Thanks so much, Mark. Are we going to see you later, or it's like 2 o'clock?
Yeah, you'll see me in the first break. Whether I can make it to the end, I'm not quite sure.
No, that's
I'll hang around.
But thank you. Great.
All right.
We'll see you
Thank you
later.
very much
Cheers.
again, everybody.
All right. So we've got our next speaker, speaker number 3. We've got Sabina. How are you?
Hi. Okay. Thank you very much.
Great. Great. So I'll chat to you afterwards. But Sabina, you're here to speak to us about how we will socialize when we are allowed to leave home, which I think people have been quite naughty over these times. So, but I'll leave it up to you and chat to you later. Cheers.
Right. So thanks for the introduction. Yes, my name is Sabina Lehman. I'm based in Cape Town, South Africa. And I'm particularly interested in how we socialize, but also particularly interested in the role that experiences play in how we socialize and how that might have changed during this period. So humans are, of course, social beings. We live and work in clans. We rely on each other for emotional, physical, and mental well-being. And the greatest punishment of all has always been solitary confinement. So it's been rather interesting for us. We haven't been solitary, but we have been confined at home. I'm using the images of Banksy throughout my talk. Banksy is an English anonymous artist, started in the 90s. He does street art. Some would call him a vandal. His art is mainly using stencils. He's also considered a political activist. Either way, I love his work, so I've taken the opportunity of using all his art. So we've been in lockdown now for 11 weeks, and I think all it's shown is that we really are craving human contact. But it's also perhaps led to some lazy socializing, and this may change the way we use experiences when we are allowed to leave home again. Aristotle said man is by nature a social animal, and lockdown has not changed this at all. But it has accelerated some social megatrends that were already in place, and it's highlighted what it's like to have presence-free socializing. It's also highlighted how we can use virtual shared experiences rather than in real life. It's accelerated the trend for virtual shared experiences. We have the demand for sharing fun hasn't changed, and we've seen that in that, for example, Zoom had 10 million daily users in December. It's now got 300 million daily users. We've seen the increase of dating apps, particularly those that now have video. And the House Party was the most downloaded app in the UK, Italy, and Spain. One of the social trends that has been accelerating prior to COVID lockdown was that people were going out less. There was the growth of in-home entertainment versus out-of-home entertainment. People were spending more on socializing inside the home, and they were spending 26% more time socializing in the home. Equally, over the last 2 decades, we've had the increase in the experience economy, where people have spent more money and put greater value on spending on experiences rather than goods. And why are we spending on experiences? Because we believe they have greater value, particularly as we can socialize with them. There's the anticipation of the event, there's the event itself. Then, of course, there's the memory of the event that can be shared. And even more importantly, if the event is in some way adversity, we have an even greater memory in sharing how we got through that adversity together. And that's why the experience economy has grown. But equally, we've now been viewing the world from indoors. We are inside our homes, and for many of us, we're actually locked in cities. So I wonder how nature will play a role in our social spaces once we leave the home. So the response for socializing in terms of entertainment spaces has been for entertainment options to offer spaces to share experiences in real life. This has seen the growth of restaurants and pubs, live sporting events, and generally live events have grown. And of course, there's even live e-sporting events now, as people have found that people are willing to leave home to socialize. Meanwhile, during COVID, we spent a lot of time in front of the TV. The Netflix effect has meant that on-demand and streaming has downloaded more than ever. And in the past, these were maybe shared experiences where we shared spaces on the couch and we agreed on which program to watch. Now we are very much, it's no longer a culturally shared experience. We all watch on our own screens. We may all watch the same series, but hardly ever at the same time. And these series are all fed by algorithms that feed us what we know we like or what we know our friends like. So what this means is when we finally get ready to leave home again, there will be a number of hurdles to overcome. And these hurdles will be quite real, and how will we react to these? One of these hurdles is, for example, the hurdle of time. At home, the switch in and switch out costs of socializing is very easy. You could have logged into this event now 1 minute before it started, and you could log out without us even knowing. Whereas when we leave home, it takes time to get to places. And that investment in time, whether it's parking, queuing, driving there, has no additional benefit to the actual social experience that we might be doing. Equally, we will have to negotiate with each other around our discretionary spend. So at the moment, at home, there are no additional costs to the Netflix that you've already paid for the beginning of the month, or to the apps that you've downloaded. But when you leave home to socialize going forward, you'll have to negotiate with your friends and family as to who's got discretionary spend at the same time and how much you want to expend on that experience. And most importantly, the switch out costs when you leave home are really high. Again, in-home entertainment and socializing, you can change your mind, switch out really easily. But if you've all agreed to meet somewhere and you've decided, one person decides that actually the restaurant isn't fun or the museum isn't quite what you wanted, the switch out costs are high. So with these costly hurdles to overcome, we may be reluctant to take a chance on new social experiences. We may be less curious to try new things that we know we won't enjoy. And we need to overcome this reluctance to try something new, particularly when that is curated by somebody else, perhaps a friend, or even perhaps a curator in a museum who is asking us to try new experiences. So as we go from socializing in parallel to leaving the home and socializing together, we will need to rely and encourage ourselves to stumble upon new things, to allow for serendipity, to find things that perhaps we haven't tried before, and to let our friends lead us to new places. For ultimately, we do remain social beings, and shared experiences is what brings us together. But we will need to put aside some of those easy habits that have formed during lockdown that comes with lazy socializing.
Sabina, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, thank you so much for that. Actually, yeah, I'm not a very intellectual art enthusiast, but I think yeah, the big thing with Banksy is it's a huge amount of meaning that he gives just to what he does, and I know a lot of people stirs a lot of controversy, but it asks a lot of questions, and I think that's also very important. I think I'd love to hear from you in terms of, you speak about basically a behavioral change that's happening within our communities. I've heard, for example, in some of the supermarkets that baking soda and butter have been selling, through the roof, because people are, eating at home and really just prioritizing that. And do you think that there's actually going to be this shift to how it was, call it the 1980s, or like early 1990s, in the sense of people being more focused on having events at home instead of going out to particular, say, restaurants or anything?
Cocooning has been a trend for a very long time, and I think it's only been exacerbated with COVID-19. Faith Popcorn was a futurist that spoke about cocooning almost 20 years ago. So yes, I do think there will be more cocooning at home, particularly as, even if lockdown ends, it's not as if we can all rush out and do what we used to do straight away. This will be 6 or 7 months of new habit forming. Of course, with all these trends, there's always a counterpoint. So perhaps with more of us working from home and being at home more often, maybe in fact we'll want to go out and have a change of scenery. So we don't know yet how these things are going to play out.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be interesting to see the patterns that hold, because of course, we always know as human beings, there's a lot of people love to go back to the comfort side and how it used to be, kind of thing. But it's going to be very interesting to see what habits stay. And for you, what do you think is the one habit that you think is going to stay for good and not go back to how it used to be?
I think we've all, particularly maybe those that are a little bit older, become more au fait with technology and the use of technology for virtual socializing. There's no doubt in my mind that that's been one of the biggest, it's a trend that already existed and it has been accelerated. I mean, Andrew Cole, our first speaker, spoke about the fact that he's now so connected, much more so than ever, from across the world. That, and then I think the work from home will be a fundamental shift that will affect how we do many other things. But, you know, let's see how it works out.
Agreed. Well, thank you so much. Lovely to have you, and we'll chat in the interval.
Thank you. Okay.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
And I actually just see, Steve, you've just said we're going to be washing our hands more, which I agree with. I think at every single retailer, they're asking everyone to wash their hands. And I think that may actually just be a standard that continues even beyond the regulations. I would like to invite our next speaker, Lloyd. Lloyd, are you there? There you are. Brilliant. Are you there, Lloyd?
I'm all good, thanks, Grant.
Loud and clear. Lloyd, well, you know, I'm super excited to hear from you, and I'll chat to you afterwards, but let's share about observation being not always 2020.
Thanks, Grant. Observation is not always 2020. We all observers in our daily life, actively, passively, it doesn't matter. I'm a bit of an obsessive observer, but we all observe stuff. And from our observation, you have a perception that you form. And from that perception, you tend to create a reality. And what I'm proposing is, if we lighten up how we observe things, our reality might get lighter. We're bombarded with this detritus and crap all day. You've got Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram. Don't even get me started on TikTok. I have no idea what it's about. But we're bombarded with this, and people feel the need to have an opinion on it, okay? But I want to take a step back. Over the last couple of years, I've been lucky enough to travel extensively through Africa. Gone to amazing places. Just a quick travel tip. If you ever have the opportunity to go to Lagos in Nigeria, just don't, okay? So I've traveled extensively, and I've been recording things in different ways, writing, taking photographs, some of them good, some of them not so great. And I noticed from people when I would post something on Facebook that I would get these strange responses. They had observed what I had done in different ways. And it sort of got me thinking, like, what was going on? Everyone is observing everything in a very different way. In a way, it got a bit weird because people started thinking what I was doing was super glamorous. It was all planes and helicopters and whatever. And trust me, you get stuck in the Serengeti for 3 weeks with no booze, it's not glamorous. It's basically Lord of the Flies. And then I started translating this into my real life when I came back. And I posted this picture and I titled it Weekend in Franschhoek. And I got 2 responses. My first response was from Carol. And it went, OMG, looks stunning, would love to go there with my besties. And then the second response I got was from Dave, who said, WTF, inbox me if you're having money troubles, let's chat. So I then created this page by accident called Emperor of the Universe on Facebook, where I started observing things in my real life and characters, and I started writing about them. And I'll take you through a few just to give you an example of how I've observed these different characters. Here we go. This is in my house. These are my dogs. This is Macy and Dave. Macy, for me, is an Afrikaans girl from Stellenbosch. She likes raves. She says things like, kom ons gaan jol, dit gaan so fucking cool wees. Dave is gender fluid. When he speaks, he sounds like Stephen Fry, and he's prone to moodiness. Okay? These are my kids. I have teenagers. If you have teenagers, you have my sympathy. They speak a different language. I call them squatters because as far as I'm concerned, they are squatters. They live in my house. They don't pay rent, and that's what they are. They have a mother, and I call her goddess woman for obvious reasons. She's a very attractive looking woman. But more so the goddess part is probably because she spent 25 years with me, and she probably has to be a goddess for that to happen. But the other people I come into contact in my life that I turn into sort of characters, or for lack of a better word, in my day-to-day life. You look at this guy, you see an Olympic athlete. I see Trevor, who's a hedge fund manager from a leafy suburb in Constantia, who loves nothing more on a Saturday morning to walk around clippity-clop with those stupid little shoes and his rather unimpressive package with his mocha latte almond milk thing, okay? Curling, I like to watch sport. You see a balding middle-aged man. I see somebody who's at the pinnacle of his Olympic career. He's been going to CrossFit every morning for the last 10 years. He's probably vegan as well, which would probably account for the hair loss. But I don't want to be too judgy on that one. These are carols. Carols are your archetypal, absolutely archetypal rugby moms who make the bacon and egg rolls on a Saturday morning. They shop at Cape Union Mart. They never have anything nasty to say about anyone. So I started talking about all these people and writing about all these people. And then something happened. The C word came along. Just to be clear, I'm talking about the orange thing on the right, not the one on the left. So the C word came along, and I observed what was happening around the rest of the world and how we were going to be locked down. And I created a perception which I thought was going to become my reality. And my perception of it was something like this. I thought I was going to be day drinking, not wearing pants, watching the whole of Netflix, and potentially reading the internet, if I could. Goddess Woman had a different kind of reality to it. And when it came round, what happened was I was actually taken hostage in my own home. And she turned it into a sort of, into a work camp. I was cleaning things. I was cleaning things I didn't know needed cleaning. I was cleaning light bulbs. I was cleaning candles. I even had to vacuum the dogs one day. It was one of those kind of situations. And then something really funny happened on the 1st of May. I got a phone call and I was told I was getting laid off work. Initially, I thought it sounded quite sexy, like laid off, but then the panic kicked in. So I did what anybody would do in that situation. I drank about 4 liters of pineapple beer and felt very sorry for myself. Then the next day, the real panic kicked in. I was a 49-year-old man with a 49-year-old body and no foreseeable stream of income. And I panicked. I panicked properly. And then I thought, hang on a second. You're always expounding about this change your how you observe things and you'll change your reality. So I did. I turned it on myself. And I looked at myself quite hard. And I suddenly realized that I'm a 49-year-old man, sure, but I got 49 years worth of experience. And for the first time in my life, I got the chance to totally reinvent myself. So without getting too Deepak Chopra on you or anything like that, I sort of thought about this quite heavily. And then I came across this quote by Andy Warhol, who said perception precedes reality. He also said I was going to be famous for 15 minutes. That hasn't happened either. But I'd like to just change this very slightly. I'd like to say observation precedes perception, which creates your reality. Thank you.
Lloyd?
Hi.
I see you've got some fans. Was that the background?
Those are the squatters and Goddess Woman making a noise in the background.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. And I'm super interested here in terms of, what is it that you think, if you now go into the next chapter, what is it that you would like to happen? What type of events or opportunities would you foresee? Based on those observations, what is it that you think would really evolve, and align to what you're passionate and interested in?
Grant, I mean, my ultimate passion is writing and travel and photography. But also, I've had my eyes opened over the last little while with this ridiculous Emperor of the Universe thing that happened, where the amount of people that were actually responding to me really positively, and especially through the COVID times, where they were going, like, we're actually looking forward to your posts every single day, just as a pick-me-up. So if I can somehow combine those kinds of things and still enrich people's lives in some way, shape, or form, be it visually, be it through the written word, or a bit of humor, that's a win for me.
Okay, brilliant. And I think it's important, especially during these times, for everyone to connect and support each other. So I think, I'd love for you to actually share what is it on Facebook? Is it an open group? Is it? Can you give us a bit more details for the audience?
It's a Facebook page. It's called Emperor of the Universe. It is a closed group, but you can get direct invites from other members that already exist, or I will authorize your membership. But it's, yeah, come along if you've got time to waste and you you feel like something silly.
Yeah, well, we've got, we're sitting on now 100 and just under 180 people. So I think that's super great for everyone. So if anyone is looking for some inspiration, some positivity with a different spin to it, learning the lesson that you should not go to Lagos.
Never.
So I think, everyone's welcome to go check out Lloyd's incredible play. Thank you so much, Lloyd, and chat to you in the interval.
Thanks, Grant.
Cheers. Mandisi, are you there?
Yes, I am here. Are you playing my slides?
No. I'm not. We're not playing your slides yet. Are you not going to show your beautiful face?
Can you see my face now?
Hang on. I think Kate, maybe if you can turn.
Can you see me?
There we go. Perfect.
Okay.
I got you.
And then who's going to be playing? And are you going to be playing my photos and stuff?
So Kate, she's the pioneer behind everything. So she's going to be, when it goes into the next slide, you'll go straight on. All right. So Mandy, cool. I'm super excited to hear about this, and I think also, this is something that I've read up about, and I think it's something that everyone's really going to be intrigued about. So off to you, and then I'll chat to you later.
Sure. Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. My name is Mandy Sisindo, and I'm a theatre maker by profession. And my life is all about building and implementing alternative art spaces in the marginalized communities. This is Khayelitsha Art School and Rehabilitation Center, which is a Shek theatre that is based in Khayelitsha. What is a Shek? Next slide. A Shek, it is a corrugated iron shed, a space that is created out of zanks, out of planks, and out of many things. Khayelitsha is one of the biggest townships in South Africa where there is no theatre, there are no art centers, and there are no entrepreneurial spaces for young people. So as Umandi Sisindo, I decided to implement this space that is now housing more than 200 people who are now able to watch theatre, music, poetry, visual arts, and other artistic disciplines. And in this theatre, we are hosting more than 88 young people who are being taught all of those artistic disciplines. And after school, we take those young people and we help them with their homeworks, we'll help them with everything that they need. And also it is a healing program. That's the reason why we call it a rehabilitation center. So in our townships, we need such spaces where we host performances, and also we allow young people to write their own stories, not just to tell stories of Cinderella or tell stories of Shakespeare, but to write productions that come from their hearts and their souls. So after not having these spaces called theaters in the townships, I decided to implement what is called now Shek theaters, because I grew up in a Shek myself. And we tell inclusive and diverse stories, stories about Black people, stories about white people, stories about colored people, and stories about people, stories that at the same time will heal the people and make sure that educate other people. This is the show that we did called Question Mark, which was at the Baxter Theatre, which was talking about June 16 and asking a question, is June 16 a day for us to celebrate or a day for us to mourn as Black people in South Africa right now who are coming from the apartheid? So what we did on this show, it's called Ezotando. It is an adaptation of Romeo and Juliet of William Shakespeare, but it is set in Khayelitsha and it is in isiXhosa. So our people can be proud of our language. So we turn these productions so they can speak to our people, they can speak to our communities, not taking our theater and only present it in town. And then the COVID-19 came. A lot of young people, about 88 young people from our theater did not manage to come inside the theater because of the regulations. And then they cried and we had nothing to do because we had to follow what the government has said. But now we have grown something where we develop an idea of feeding those young people who are coming to our theater which we cannot teach them anymore, but we must provide food, as their parents will never go to work again, or most of their parents are unemployed, or they weren't even working even before. But because we get groups and different people from the industry, from our theater, from music, and also people from tourism who are helping us out to feed these young people, we are now feeding more than 400 people daily and giving sanitizers, giving every access to these young people, giving masks and everything so that they can be protected during this time of the COVID-19. Black people in the townships are the ones who are suffering right now. That is the reason why Khayelitsha, one of the biggest townships in South Africa, is at the epicenter of the pandemic, because a lot of people are in search. They are searching for food, they are searching for money, they are searching for jobs. So we are providing also an access for education, because these young people also do not have data, they do not have TV at home to follow education programs. So we are trying our best that we are not converting this theater into a soup kitchen, but also a school, and lobby young people from the townships to come and teach other young people so that they become leaders, so they can prosper and show the world their greatness. So during this time of the pandemic, yes, there was a lot of impact and a lot of things that had happened, and a lot of people were disadvantaged. And now what we have developed is the fact that we cannot leave our theater behind. Now we are starting to tell stories of how these young, all of them, they are writing monologues of how they feel. And then we start taking videos and put those videos on YouTube, put those videos on Instagram and Facebook, so that people can feel and hear what they feel. We're not also giving them that, but we're also giving them food parcels so that they can take those food parcels into their homes. Art in South Africa, it's something that is not even given attention right now. I, as a professional actor, as a professional director, I have not even get the relief fund that has been given by the Department of Arts and Culture. So thank God that there are people who are willing to help us out. So we are handing over these parcels with my wife, who is helping me, and other young people, about 88 of them who are in the theater, and we give these parcels of food to each and everyone. There's no involvement of government, and there is no involvement of municipality. Yes, but it's because of the people that we have been working with, like throughout the years of implementing these programs in the township. And this theater, it is a self-funded theater. No one funds it. Me and my wife, we are freelancers. We must make sure that we're getting jobs as actors, as directors, to make money for this. And then we're also providing oranges, which we were given by Dr. Ruben to give to older people from the townships from the age of 50 years, so that they can boost their immune system. So we are trying our best that these things must reach the people. That's the reason why right now you see these oranges. All about 300 oranges went to the people, and 200 of them were delivered each and every house around Khayelitsha. So we are trying our best to inspire the uninspired, educate the uneducated, and of course, heal the unhealed, which is our communities and our townships and our people.
Mandisi?
My brother.
Sure. Yes, that was amazing, brother. I could feel their passion. I could feel their passion. And so we were at theater closer, yeah?
The theater is called from the
No, I'm not Napuna Skoleni Sam high school. So Andipuni Afrikaans. So in the corner is closer, Kodwa Andi as the Afrikaans. Kodwa if Ani Amungo Khrief.
Oh, that is amazing. You are trying, my brother. You are trying. And thanks to everyone in the chats. I can see your chats. Thank you, everyone.
Mandisi, I think this is an incredible time, for everyone, and this truly inspired me, because I think the most important thing in this time is to not play victim, is to actually get out there and to build and to do something, so that with what in your means is possible. So, I think that the questions coming out that I've seen, in terms of your banking details, some people would like to donate. And I think also just to bear in mind that, tonight we've sold over 200 and I think it's 220 tickets. And so those proceeds, what I'm excited about, what we're going to do is we're going to do a poll so that we can vote, so that, you know, we can ultimately look to, you know,
Sure.
contribute that to you and to some of the other panelists where possible, right?
Sure,
and I
thank
think just from your side, how can people reach you? How can people engage with you? Tell me a bit more about that, a Facebook page or anything like that.
We are on Facebook. On Facebook, it's Kasi RC, Shek Art School and Theatre. And on Instagram, we are Kasi_RC _Shek Theatre. And on Twitter, we are Kasi RC. And people can call me on 084 03 81900. And people can Uber food into our theatre. We are not after money. We don't really want people to give us money. If they have food, if they have clothes, if they have means to buy electricity for the people, those are the things we accept, because we want even people, we want to invite them to come to our theater as well, to hand over if they feel like, or they want to see these things going to the people. You understand? So people can help anyhow. They can search Mandy, they can search Kasi RC, Khayelitsha Art School and Rehabilitation Center.
Brilliant. Yeah, I just think that is incredible what you've done, and you've done it with little resource. But you've just proven that you know, when community comes together, things can happen. And yeah, I think thank you so much for that. I think what you know, what we're going to do is, some people have put on the Q&A, they put, you know, how do they answer, how do they, you know, get in touch with you. So what we're going to do is we've already added the Facebook link to your school, so you're probably going to get a lot of direct messages, and then there we can share, you know, the banking details and everything. All right. So thank you so much. I really, I look forward to just seeing this continue. And I think that the moment that we have the opportunity for everyone to connect and to go visit and to be actually stimulated by a complete incredible cultural experience, I think is incredible. Thank you.
Completely. Thank you very much.
All right, so everyone, to everyone watching and to the panelists and everyone, so we are about just after 8 p.m. We're going to do a 20-minute break now, a 20-minute interval. So you're welcome to just go grab another bottle of wine, or or just get refreshments, or quickly go have a shower or anything like that. So I think that the one thing I would like to do, Kate, if you can maybe put up something tonight to get that feedback. So Kate, is it possible if we please can put up the next poll?
Here we go, the poll is up.
Great. Okay, so the next poll, it's just a simple question. How are you enjoying our first live streaming night so far? Are you loving it? Is it good for our first time? Is try hard, or I prefer Netflix? So yeah, I mean, yeah, we're gonna see what the votes are. When you see that, case, I think that will be great to show everyone. And yeah, can we bring up the 5 speakers before us, if possible? We've got Andrew, we've got Mark, we've got Sabina, we've got Lloyd, and Mandy, if you are still there, please definitely pop up. There's Andrew. So Andrew, I must admit, you know, you're clean shaven, you're looking slick.
Well, I had to clean up for the live show, for goodness sake, you know. I showered even.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think I love to see the different hairstyles and type of facial features as well, in terms of this, you know, from the guys and the ladies and everything. It's super interesting to find out what people have chosen to do, you know, and I think that's pretty interesting, and to see if people will stay with that hairstyle as well. That's, I think, also something. So I think, Andrew, so Canada, how's Canada doing? Like, tell us a bit more about you know, what the experience is there like at the moment.
I think, like most places, it's figuring this out. I live in Toronto and in the province of Ontario, and it's still happening. You know, the fight is real, and we just have to keep up the effort. I've been impressed with the leadership across the country in terms of how they've dealt with it, and we just need people to do the right thing and be responsible, and hopefully we can turn the corner soon.
Yeah, agreed. And how have you found the community side of it? Because I think, I've heard of something like in Sweden, how that's going. Have you found that to be pretty interesting?
Yeah, it's been quite something. People have gotten together in terms of donations and sewing masks and really stepping up and showing what community is all about. And I just feel so lucky in terms of my neighbors that we have, and really helping each other out in terms of babysitting and all kinds of other things.
And you mentioned, and I saw in the Q&A you included the link. So is that how people can engage with you now? Is that the preferred channel to engage with you, to reach out?
I'm on Twitter at Mr. Cole, all spelled out, and I do Instagram in a very small amount. But that the blog address I shared is just an outlet more than anything. Brilliant.
Thank you so much. Great. And I actually see now that we've got the poll, and we see that 76% of the attendees say loving it. So that's always good. And 25% say good for your first time. And fortunately, no one says try hard or I prefer Netflix. So thank you everyone for doing that. And that's a massive amount of votes. So that's pretty cool. And I'm going to go over to, I think I'm going to go over to Mark, because I know that you're, early in the morning. So Mark, tell me more about, what's happening now within where you see PechaKucha going. How have you seen the evolution? Because from my side with PechaKucha Cape Town now, I really think that there's a huge opportunity now, to do a sort of omni-channel type of interface where it's live, giving access outside, as well as then, for the people that want to come in when we get to that point where socializing is allowed.
Sure. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you to all the presenters just now. I mean, really amazing presentations, and creativity does defy all boundaries and borders, and the last presenter, Mandy, was incredible, and just shows what positivity and passion can do. More than money, it's about being creative. And I think around the world, we've had the issues with the pandemic and the issues in the last couple of weeks. And throughout that, we've been running PechaKuchas, and always everybody is positive and upbeat. And this leads into your question, really, because we've been on 20 to 30 presentations like this since the pandemic started. And it's been amazing to get views into cities in America, in Europe. And everybody has got a really interesting story to tell, something that's quite positive, quite ingenious sometimes. And you turn on the TV and watch Fox or CNN or BBC, and somehow it seems a different world. The world that we see through PechaKucha is the real world. It's real news, and these are the stories we're getting, and the human, the default state of any human is compassion. And we see that time and time again with the PechaKucha network. We'd always been nervous of putting PechaKucha presentations online. And we said no streaming, and because we were worried that if it rained in Tokyo or there's a typhoon coming or something, people wouldn't come to the event, they'd just sit at home and watch it. Well, here we are stuck where we can't go out and we can't go anywhere. So we've been forced into this new world, within the last two months. And what's been amazing, it's actually brought us closer together. And I think there's going to be a hybrid type of presentation going forward. The live events, we're dying for live events to come back. I don't think we necessarily need to stream those, but I think that we can have other events like this. And we'd like to invite some of your speakers to come and present at PechaKucha Tokyo online. And you should invite other speakers from around the world to speak at your online events too. And I think there may be a channel here somewhere where we would just, we have a weekly event where presenters come from all around the world to present online on a Zoom call like this. So the potential is really, really huge, just to bring everybody closer together. And the fact that I've never, although I've been to Cape Town a couple of times, I haven't met, I've obviously met Andrew, but the fact I can come and meet you. I've been chatting to people in Kalamazoo, in Providence, Rhode Island, in Arlen, in Germany, and we've had 5 or 6 people from around the world on the Frank Lloyd Wright call today, which has been amazing. So yeah, the future's bright for PechaKucha, and it's amazing how the format does carry over into this online space quite well, and people are using it on Zoom calls just to stop the Zoom calls being so boring, you know. And the fact that video doesn't work very well on a Zoom call, and the 20 slides, 20 seconds works really, really well.
Agreed.
See, I talk too much, that's why it's slides 20 seconds.
But I think also, you know, like you were saying, is there's the news, and then there's actually, you know, the actual people within a community, or within, you know, with anywhere. And at the same time, what I've always believed is being optimistic, being positive. That's a choice. It's, you know, either one you choose.
That's simple, you know. Positivity brings positivity. I think the other thing that I wanted to say is that we're a city-based network. We're not country-based. Countries are outdated models, I think, and especially when you look at, you know, Hong Kong. We look at Hong Kong, Taipei, Guangzhou, you know, Shanghai, Beijing. You know, we don't talk about countries anymore. Everything is city-based, and I think that's more important as well with the pandemic. I mean, I think we can keep things tight within cities, and the country becomes kind of outdated. So yeah, yay cities.
Hyper-local.
Yay Cape Town.
Thank you so much, Mark. Really a pleasure having you, and thank you so much for sharing. Yeah. All right. And I want to go over to Sabina.
Hi.
So tell me quickly, I think, so first of all, how have you found this experience? I think, you know, this was your first PechaKucha, right? In terms of presenting.
As attendee.
How have you found it?
It's fantastic. I think it's really great. I've been meaning to engage with it for some time. There's nothing like forcing you to engage with something when you're the speaker.
Was this a dare, by the way?
Sorry?
Was this a dare? to
I was a bit. Gary Herson, one of the volunteers.
Oh, classic, man.
I'm going to say yes, but I know I'll regret it.
But now, I think, you know, what I was curious about, you know, in terms of what you were sharing, what have you found? Have you found anything quite extraordinary in your community or within your network? What have you found extraordinary? Because I think, you know, as Mandisi was chatting about earlier, in terms of where he literally found that it just naturally, organically happened with the movement of how, you know, everyone came to support, right? So from your side, in terms of what you've seen within your network, how have you found things organically happen?
I think what I found most extraordinary is that, so I work in the space of futures thinking, and the scenario that people are least able to engage with is one of collapse, one where everything breaks down from the world that you know it. And so what's interesting to me is how COVID-19 has forced everyone overnight, incredible, to engage with collapse. They always, I mean, I wish the word people use wasn't collapse, because it's a negative word. You know, a bit like what Andrew was talking about, where you have new spaces that emerge. So collapse is not a bad thing. I mean, the collapse of apartheid, the collapse of the Berlin Wall, these are all things that gave us new and much better things. Yet we still struggle to truly engage with what it would look like if something stopped completely. And often I've been working with people and clients, and we've said, what would it look like if tourism stopped? Because I work in the tourism space, and they've been unable to imagine it. Well, I think we'll never struggle with that again. So that to me has been quite interesting. And we're all in this, that the entire world, the entire globe is in the same space together at the same time, going through it. And although we're all so different and we have such different cultures, ultimately we're all these social beings, and the social opportunities being taken away from us. And how does it feel? What does it look like? And
maybe another word is change. Eh? Maybe that's a word as well. You know, this is change. And of course, we notice how, you know, people react differently. And as you also alluded to, in terms of I mean, basically it's like a flight or, fight kind of thing in terms of what do you do? Do you get, do you immediately go into action pack type of solution driven, or do you kind of stand back, kind of wait and see? And what is it that you think people that are watching now, just, through our informal chat, what do you think that some people should think about doing, tomorrow that you found really useful to manage this change?
I think it's probably relative to people in certain types of people. I'm an A-type personality, so being forced to stop has been very interesting. And I go back to Andrew's talk, which to me was it really hit a nerve, is to look at the spaces between things, to slow down. To not fly to every single conference that you're invited to say, listen, I'll do the talk via Zoom. There are different ways of doing things, and I think we've definitely accelerated moving into those new spaces. I think some will come back. It's never 100% shift, and it also shouldn't be, because of course there are good things about the old world that were left behind, but it has forced us to explore many new ways of doing things, and I think that's a good thing. It's also brought a lot of disruption and negative things, let's be honest. I mean, we are lucky to be inside a home and have live streaming and data. I think if you don't have a home or data, it would have been a very different experience. But yeah.
So, I mean, touching on that point, then something that an attendee or an audience member watching this can do possibly tomorrow is find someone that is in a position where they need help. And it literally can be one person. And it's not just about, going to the robots. It's about find someone that is actually trying, that is actually putting an effort in, and that is actually trying to build something, within wherever it is. Would you say that is also one to do?
Oh, absolutely. I always think if you look after those people that are your neighbors, and I mean that people that interact with you, anybody that you have contact with on a daily basis, if everyone did that, we'd have a better world. Agreed.
Well, thank you so much. Lovely to have you. And up to Lloyd now. So Lloyd, so how long have you been doing your Facebook or running, the Facebook page for? How long was that again?
It's been about a year. It was sort of by accident how it started. And I sort of blame the village and Vanessa Raffaele because I posted some irreverent comment or some post a while back, and she encouraged me to go ahead and do it. And I think my language was so choice that I couldn't really post on that for much longer. So I had to go onto a separate platform. So it's been just pretty much about a year.
Brilliant. And I think if you think about the type of people that have engaged with you, what is it just completely from all walks of life, or have you found it specifically, the creatives that are in the creative profession, or tell me a bit more about that?
No, strangely enough, there's been a huge amount of, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, suburban women, surprisingly enough, who clearly, when I talk about my kids and I talk about my life, and I'm talking about not the travel side, I'm talking about my daily life, something resonates. And I think the fact that I probably say things that people think, but they might not be brave enough to say, it resonates with those people, and it's been quite an eye opener as to who has followed, and yeah, pretty much a broad spectrum of people, but an awful lot of down to earth normal people.
Great, and I think where would you then see that what would you actually like to happen with the page? Does it turn into a book? Does it turn into like a short story? What actually can happen? Yeah.
The way I see it is I'm developing characters all the time, and I keep writing about these characters repeatedly, and the story goes on and on and on and on. And it almost becomes a voyeuristic kind of thing where people keep going back and having a look and seeing, like, what is the next thing that's happening with Macy, this stupid Afrikaans dog, and the kids and whatever else, and stupid basic encounters that I have on a daily basis that everybody else is having as well, but I might be putting a different spin on it. So I sort of see it growing along those lines where people are bored and curious to look back in. What's happening today? Look, the Osborns without Americans, basically.
Oh, well, I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward. I hope I get that invite. I hope I get accepted in the exclusive.
You will.
Page. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Lloyd. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to watching it as well unfold. And last but not least, Mandisi, you're there. Listen, Mandisi,
Yay.
Is that a hubbly in the background? Just to calm the nerves. No. Okay, so I was just wondering. You never know what people have in the backgrounds nowadays. That's classic. So tell me, Mandisi, I think that you've got this engagement, and what are the next steps? We're just to all the audience members, we're at 20 past 8. I think we're going to go for about 4 more minutes, and then we're going to go straight into it just to get through this. And Mandisi, so tell me, what do you think are the next steps? So, when the government starts opening up, like, have you found that you need to maybe introduce different aspects of the theatre so that it can reach more people, or have you found there's actually a new channel that the theatre can actually contribute value to the broader community?
Yeah, I think the vision is not the same. The government might want.
I think, Mandisi, can you check is your mic? Is it just me, or is it your mic? The front. Try louder, or the mic, the cord into the computer. There we go. Try now.
Now can you hear me?
There you go. Nice.
Okay.
All right. Carry on.
What I'm trying to say is government, so the only thing, or the only spaces that they support are spaces like that are well built or professional spaces. Yeah, my theater, because it's a shack, you understand, and they say that it is dangerous to be in a shack, but government is unable to build spaces or to build theaters in the townships. So this is us finding, so there is a problem already. So what do we do with that problem? How do we solve the problem? It's by us creating these alternative art spaces with what we have got. Mandy himself, I grew up in a shack. I lived in a shack like 30 years of my life. And even right now, if you visit my house, it is a shack. You understand? So I understand. After UCT, I graduated at the University of Cape Town 2012. That is when I saw how easy it was to transform spaces into theaters. And I told myself, when I go back to the townships, I will implement shack theaters, because that is what I know. That is what I'm experienced to. So right now, there are about 8 shack theaters that are implemented throughout South Africa, which were inspired by my shack theater. So young people now throughout the country, they are starting to find this thing as an alternative to do when government is unable to build such spaces for young people to practice their art. So now Mandy is also building other 2 theaters in the Eastern Cape in the villages. So it needs to be a franchise, but we must be organized to make sure that it is a good structure that produces the best art ever in life. You do not have to go to big theaters, but you would want just to go to the shack theater.
Yes,
Hey Mandisi, this is Mark over in Tokyo. I just want to say that it's not much different here. In fact, that and Andrew will back us up because he's been to Tokyo. Super Deluxe was a space where PechaKucha started. We ran it for 17 years. We called it the noisy hole because it was in a basement. We got no government support. Government doesn't really support arts in Japan very well. And it was really just like you. I felt this real connection with you. This is where PechaKucha started we should call it PechaKucha Shack as well. And it spread like you did because it's people with passion like you that make things happen. And it defies, as we said before, defies all borders. And what you're doing is amazing. So congratulations. But just saying that, for artists, they struggle all around the world, and they also survive and do amazing things without any funding. And that makes it really art. And congratulations on all you're doing.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Mark, for that insight. And that's very true. Hey, Mandisi. So people, they can contact you. We've got your details online. You know, whether it be, it doesn't necessarily just have to be food, like you were saying. Flip, if someone's got a facility, if someone's got, you know, some capacity, like Andrew now, he shared about the Sunshine Cinema. Andrew, you put that link there in the chat. So I think there's a lot of opportunity, and I'm really positive that something great will come out of this. So thank you very much for being on, and enjoy the rest of the show. And thank you to the 5 speakers as well for the first session. All right. So now we're going to go on to the next session. So Kate, are you there?
Hi, I'm here.
Awesome.
I'm just gonna get everybody else off, and then we'll swap over.
Right.
Just give me a moment.
Okay. So just to all the audience members, welcome back. Thank you again for staying in. As you can see, the night is it's not going to go, you know, into the wee hours. You know, we're looking to finish probably around about 9 o'clock. So it's a nice early weekday evening. And I think just one thing that I'd like to put forward to you is that this wouldn't be possible without, you know, the volunteer committee putting their hard time into this. And of course, you know, with activating Zoom and with, you know, with those costs involved in that. So if you do have the opportunity, please, if you have a phone right now, go into the camera. And then basically in the camera, you hover over that QR code that you see, that quicker code. And that will take you to the collection or the donation page for PechaKucha Capetown, and you're welcome to then snap scan or to use a card. And literally, it can be 10 Rand or 20 Rand. That literally makes a huge difference. And if you have bought a ticket, a real big thanks, because that makes a huge impact on making this possible. And yeah, I'm just super excited that we get to you know, donate these proceeds, you know, the net proceeds now to the speakers that we really believe you know, will make good use of this. And you know, Mandisi is one of the speakers that you know, has nominated his organization, his initiative, and we'll see now another one coming up you know, soon in this four speakers in. All right, so next slide, please. All right, so Mahadi, are you there? I can see you.
Yes.
Nice to see you. All right,
Yes,
so
I'm
you're
here.
raring to go. Brilliant.
I'm ready to go.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm really looking forward to it, reimagining our food future in a post-corona world. I think, yeah, I think that is something like we discussed earlier with, you know, the different behavior changes. I'm looking forward to it. Off to you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Before we can reimagine the future, we need to see and talk about where we are and where we come from. So this year in 2020, on the 19th of May, the Global Food Nutrition Report was launched. And what the nutrition report highlighted, the need for nutrient-dense food, as malnutrition has become an epidemic. The promotion of unhealthy foods as a lifestyle choice is what's hampering people's access to good, nutritious food. So last year, 2 billion people were food insecure or without regular access to food. With food waste being a big issue in South Africa, if you look, we're looking at 10 million tons of food goes to waste every year. A third of food that's produced in South Africa annually goes to waste. This is a loss valued at 61.5 billion. And that's a lot for a country gripped with food insecurity. So now when we look at food insecurity, we also look at human rights. Everyone has a right to food. Everyone has a right to life. It's basic human right, a right to reliable source of good, nutritious food. And if we're having so much waste, there's a problem. So if most people cannot access good, nutritious food, it means our food system is broken. We need to move from a meat-based food system to a more plant-based system. The meat-based system is not helping us. It's the methane gas from our farming, is killing our planet. So we need to move to a more plant-based system that's better for us and better for the earth. How do we get these nutrient-dense food to the people? Make it accessible by making fruit and veg affordable. As it is now, fruit and veg is it's not affordable. The cheap stuff is all the unhealthy stuff. So what can we as human beings do to access this food, this nutritious food? We need to change our ways of eating. We need to move to a more meat-free life, include more meat-free dishes into in our daily eating, support a more meat-free life. Again, another thing that we also need to do to actually make sure that people access this food is create food gardens, community food gardens, because community food gardens not only give people access to food, whether you're homeless or have a home, you can access food. You can access food in the food gardens. We also need to be more in touch with our food. We need to access our food. We need to actually get involved more. We need to grow our own food, grow our own little gardens, even if it's a small little herb garden on a windowsill. That actually brings you closer to food and brings you closer to what you eat. We also need to be more aware and more exposed to indigenous ingredients, indigenous foods. Those are nutrient-dense foods. Those are foods that we grew up eating, and we need to go back to that. And most of these indigenous foods are actually good for the earth, and they're easily accessible. Another thing that we as humans can do is active citizenry. What is active citizenry? Someone earlier talked about being a good neighbor, making sure that your neighbor, if you see your neighbor has lost their job and they've got no access to food, some people won't talk about it. You as a good neighbor, you go out there and you help each other. Support local economy. So what does that mean? Support your local baker, support buy local instead of always depending on international imports. We need to actually focus on the local economy. What can our government do to support local economies? The government could actually do the taxes. They could implement more taxes for imports, subsidize our farmers so that the food prices go down. They could regulate the markets, make sure that this nutrient-dense food is actually accessible to people. What has happened with me is COVID basically took away 90% of my customers. I was stuck. I didn't know what to do. I was actually going to be food insecure very soon. What then happened is that I went online. I changed my business model quickly and I went online. I connected with food producers. I connected with urban farmers in and around Johannesburg. This, as you can see, this is one of the products that farmers would normally throw away. It's kale, it's chumulia, which is an indigenous Zimbabwean kale. What we then did is we created a space where farmers could give us their stuff that would actually go to food waste. We turned it into cash. So we turned that food product, we turned it into a pickle that we sell, and farmers get more for it. What we also then did is we also created, we normally create events. As a chef, that's what I do. I normally create events and that's what I work as. We had to find a way to still make money through events. So we actually then created a space where we could change our business model. We started supplying shops, we started supplying restaurants with these ingredients that were that our farmers were going to throw out. We actually developed products that we could sell, then in turn make money for our ladies. We partnered up with Uber Eats. Now because food has actually changed now. Delivery is what everyone has gone to. We've created a space where we've kept our women ladies working throughout the COVID, even if they're not making as much money as they were doing before. We've kept our women farmers, urban farmers that we work with, we've kept them working, even if it's just for a little bit. So COVID actually has created opportunities for us that we didn't realize were there. So instead of us sitting down and feeling sorry for ourselves, we actually went back and found spaces that we could make a difference, and we could keep everyone working. Because for us, if you support a woman and you support a woman in business, you support a whole family. You actually empower a whole lot more than just one person. So
brilliant. Thank you, Mahadi. Hey, that was your first PechaKucha, hey?
Yes.
Yeah,
it was my first one.
And I think that it's very important that everyone knows that you really hustled to make this work. I mean, you've literally been doing deliveries and like running in between and trying to get the presentation up. So, you know, kudos to you for really just allowing, you know, yourself to be in between the real hustle.
Thank you. Thank you.
So,
It's
Mahadi,
been...
so tell me now, how can, you know, specifically to share exactly what it is that you're doing that is helping those urban farmers get activated?
So a lot of them, when COVID hit, a lot of them, you must understand that a lot of the urban farmers that I'm talking about the really, really poor farmers. I'm not talking about people that are set up in a situation where they could export their stuff, or I'm talking about people who are living already from hand to mouth. So what we've done is that we've basically highlighted, we've shown a light onto them, and we've taken their produce, stuff that they would, you know, they couldn't get to the markets anymore because of COVID and because of all the restrictions around movement. So they had a lot of stuff that was rotting, and they had to throw it out. Stuff that they would otherwise sell on the streets or sell to other people, they had to throw out. So we actually found a way to take all that produce and turn it into cash for them. So with the chumulia pickle, what it was is, I mean, it's chumulia, so it's a green, it's kale. So if you don't sell it on that day, 2 days later it's rotten. You have to throw it out. It's not good for selling. So what we then did is we took that chumulia and we processed it. We created another product from it. We created a pickle that everybody loves. We put a markup on it, which is, you know, it's a pickle. So it's, instead of people getting 10 rands for a bunch of kale, that 10 rand, a bunch of kale make 3 jars of pickle, which we then sell for 70 rands. So
tell me then, you know, so with all of this now, right? So would it help if you know, if everyone watching, if someone wanted to help, how could they help? You know, is it you know, from a contribution, a financial contribution, or what is the way that people can activate and help?
Yes, people can buy from these farmers, because right now we're on level 3. So the farmers are able to get up and do their work and sell. So people must actually, which is what for me COVID has actually exposed, the gaps in our food system. So the small farmers are always the first one to be hit, and a lot of them are women. And for me, the only way you can help is by supporting these farmers. Buy from them, go to their, I mean, a lot of them, they're farming organic vegetables, stuff that you would pay a lot of money.
Is there a site, or is there somewhere that they can go?
Well, a lot of you can buy stuff from us, because a lot of our stuff, which is
comes from them indirectly.
Yes, we support them, because we take produce from them and we create products to sell and we actually get 3-4 times more than they would if they went to the market, for instance, to sell their produce. So I think then that's the definite way. Yeah, by agro-processing, we've actually created another market for them, and stuff that their food can last longer, and they make more money from it. So
I think what we'll definitely do then is we'll make sure then that we include the link to your, is it on Facebook, right? Cool.
Well, Uju Spice is an online shop. It's an online shop. It's a platform. And what we've done now is that we're getting a whole lot other people, other chefs, so it's not just farmers. So we've got farmers, we've got chefs who are at home, who've got nothing to do now. They're making stuff, and they're selling it on that platform. So we've almost created like a daily style online store where
so can you then make sure that you post on the comments?
Yes.
Can you make sure then in the chat, share that, and we'll also then put it so that everyone can see and then go reach it out. And also what we'll do is, as part of the vote towards the end of today or tonight, we'll include your initiative, the Urban Farmer Initiative, basically, so that, because just to share with everyone, to the audience members as well, is that because everyone bought tickets, we have 8,000 Rand to contribute to the speakers' initiatives. And what we're going to do is we're going to allow, because some speakers have opted not to have the initiative, so we've got specific initiatives that we'll launch a poll towards the end of tonight. Thank you, Mahadi. I really appreciate it. We'll see you later. Okay.
Thank you.
Cheers. All right, Dr. Dean, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, thank you. All right, so I'm not even going to say anything. I'm very curious to learn more about the lessons from the Spanish flu. So over to you and chat afterwards.
Thank you very much. Well, good evening, everybody. I'm doing this presentation from the wilderness in South Africa, so I hope you're well. Tonight, I'm going to talk about lessons from history. I'm going to look at the 1918 Spanish flu. Obviously, at the moment, we're going through this amazing crisis in society with COVID-19. Well, I'm a historian, and I believe we can learn so much from history, and that's exactly what I'm going to do tonight. You probably heard about the 1918 Spanish flu, but what about other pandemics through history? What, for example, about the Great Plague of London in the 14th century, the smallpox in the 1500s? Well, they were also a form of virus that were caused through travel, and I'll explain more of that when we go on. What about the Spanish flu of 1918? It killed up to 100,000 people around the world, 100 million, should I say, around the world. Then we had SARS and swine flu. But where did the Spanish flu actually start? It actually started in America. It was a result of World War I. That's right, the Great War. The Great War, which killed 9 million troops and 21 million troops were injured. It actually started in a place called Camp Funston in Kansas. You see, it spread with the troops traveling around the world, and it inadvertently reached civil society, like this incredible picture here. You can see this was the streets of Seattle. Before they knew it, people were dying in their thousands. You see, the 1918 Spanish flu became the world's worst natural disaster. In fact, it went on to infect over a quarter of the world's population, which is quite incredible. In the first 25 weeks alone, it had killed more people than HIV/AIDS had killed in 25 years. So how do we actually make comparisons with today? Well, if we look at how it was actually handled, things like social distancing were important. Here we have the streets of San Francisco in 1918. In fact, it was the troops returning from the First World War that would inadvertently spread this disease around the world, around their own communities. San Francisco took control of that, but other places were not so effective in doing so. For example, the streets of Philadelphia. It's not a song by Bruce Springsteen. I'm going to be talking about the effect of the returning troops in the homecoming parade. Because Philadelphia did not lock down its society, we can see that within weeks of this homecoming parade, 14,000 people lost their lives. Now, these are incredible figures that we should actually make comparisons with today. Social distancing is so important. You can see here the graph on the left, this idea that there's going to be a peak, but perhaps there's a second wave. That's what happened back in 1918. And as you can see, it's all about reading newspapers. The headlines back then, like they were today, was about public places being kept closed. So we can see these comparisons. Now, this incredible picture you can see here, obviously some people took the threat more serious than others. If you zoom in here, you can see that the family pet of this North American family actually had its own mask. So let's hope this family survived the threat of the Spanish flu. But we know today that we're also taking this threat seriously. There are many people around the world who are taking their own precautions. We know about personal protective equipment. Well, look at this, a homemade filter system back in 1918. But you're probably wondering where the term Spanish flu came from. And that's the most important thing, you see, because this was made political back then, exactly in the same way that it's being made political today. You see, the Spanish were actually neutral during the First World War. So countries like America and the United Kingdom were keen to not have the label of the Spanish flu. So the Spanish were reporting the outbreak of this disease in their country quite freely because they were neutral. So the rest of the world looked at Spain and gave it the title, the Spanish flu, you see. Well, we don't need to make this political. In fact, you can see here from the Spanish News Service, within a matter of weeks of this being announced in May 1918, 100,000 Spaniards had lost their lives. In fact, one of the most famous people in Spain was King Alfonso XIII. He contracted the Spanish flu. So the rest of the world gave the title the Spanish flu. In fact, the Spanish actually called it the French flu because they blamed the French. But what about the disease here in South Africa? Well, it arrived in September 1918 with the troops returning on those troop ships. It spread around the country. In fact, within 6 weeks, there were 300,000 deaths in September, October of 1918. Lack of information, poor sanitation led to 500,000 deaths in South Africa. It became the 5th worst hit country in the world. But this place was the number one. 18 million people lost their lives in India. Now have a look at that for a headline in the Times of India. I mean, incredible. People were given the wrong information. And that's exactly what we must do today. We must filter the information we're given and take the lessons from the past, which is important. Well, eventually the world got this under control. It would take 2 years. So 1918 to 1920, the world was reeling from the First World War, but eventually notices like this appeared around the world. Now, what I want to do now is just look at the similarities and the differences between COVID-19 and the Spanish flu. The first thing is they are both what we call novel viruses or new viruses. There is no immunity. They're both global pandemics. They spread by travel. In fact, the controls we can see in terms of isolation, in terms of banned public gatherings, exactly the same. Animal sources, yes, they were both animal sources. Perhaps they both came from China. The Americans are claiming that. But what about a second wave? Perhaps that will be a similarity. Well, the differences are quite staggering. Now, COVID-19 affects the elderly group. Well, it was more the youngsters back with the Spanish flu back in 1918. The incubation period was twice as long with COVID-19 as it was with the Spanish flu, but Spanish flu could kill you within 24 hours. So that is a marked difference. So, in fact, it was George W. Bush who actually alerted the world to this, the maligned president of America. He believed that the greatest threat to modern society was a pandemic such as the one we're experiencing today. Just compare that with someone like Donald Trump. Perhaps he didn't take these warnings so seriously. So if we learn lessons from history, which I believe is the importance of tonight's presentation, well, the 1918 Spanish flu killed more people than World War I. We should learn about social distances. These viruses affect everyone, the rich and famous. It doesn't matter what your ethnic background or your wealth status. We shouldn't make this political. In fact, we have survived far worse pandemics than the one we're going through. And if we look at this final quote, incredible, from the Queen of England herself, this is a time to pull together. And someone like that man on the bottom left there, Captain Tom Moore, has raised over £40 million for the NHS in England. So there's some incredibly inspiring stories that we should take lessons from. We will get this through this, I promise. Good evening to you all.
Nice. So you said, Dean, where are you staying now?
We're in Wilderness in a beautiful part of South Africa on the garden route. So I'm doing these presentations from my mobile phone. That was quite a challenge. The usual presentation normally takes about 40 minutes. So that was quite a challenge to get all that in.
Well, thank you. I think I really, it was definitely a lesson to be learned. And it's super interesting just how everyone tries to pass call it the label. It becomes a very important, call it, negative connotation that people try to swing across. How did you actually, with seeing it, when was it that they labeled it the Spanish, influenza?
Well, the thing is, with something like this, especially with history, you've got to look at the wider context. You've got to remember that the world was gripped by war at that time. So not only troops moving around the world, but we had refugees as well. So there was a lot of movement of people. It was spreading this disease in the same way that we can see today with global travel. But it was certainly the Americans. They weren't keen at all to have the label of this flu. A bit like Donald Trump, we can see today trying to call this the Chinese virus, as he did in the early days. So the Spanish, inadvertently, as I mentioned, were neutral, but they were reporting the cases freely. So the rest of the world looked at Spain and gave them the label. And as I said, the Spanish don't even consider it the Spanish flu. They call it the French flu, which is the irony of the thing.
All right, so it's quite a blame game that it turns out, and I think at the end of the day, only from the data side of things, that's also something that creates a lot of speculation as well, right?
Indeed. We've got to be more critical of the information we're fed. Back then, they relied on newspapers and it was politically driven. Now, of course, we've got the advantage of internet, listening to presentations like this, but also there's government control in the figures that were being, fed. Do we really know how many people have got these cases? How many people are being tested? It was no different to back then. But what I will say, just to leave it now, is we're in a far stronger place than we were 100 years ago. Those guys really went through it there, and I think we should take a lot of comfort from that.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Dean. If we're able to see you later, looking forward to it.
Pleasure.
Cheers. All right, to our next speaker. So we've got Danny, our 8th speaker, second last of the evening. Danny, are you there? I can see you.
I'm here.
All right.
Yes.
Perfect. So how have you enjoyed this evening thus far?
Yes, I have. It's my first PechaKucha or PechaKucha. I don't know how to say it now, but yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot.
Great. Well, looking forward to it. All right. So in terms of your title, it's How to Raise a Superhero in the Cape Flats. So looking forward to it and chat afterwards.
Cool. Thank you. Well, never did I ever imagine that I would get married. On top of that, I married a comic geek where I went to every single Marvel movie known, well, to me, since 2011. However, it wasn't all bad. I learned a lot through watching the movies and my husband whispering in my ear that, in fact, at some points, they didn't follow the comic series to the T. I loved watching my husband's face when an ordinary boy or girl would realize, in fact, that they are special, that, in fact, they have powers that could change the world. And then a terrible villain would appear, threatening everyone's existence, usually always showing up in New York. And the superhero would have a fight scene and lose. And the superhero would run away from this as he or she would think they're not powerful enough or don't have what it takes to win. But in the end, he or she will come to his or her senses, fight again, and ultimately be victorious. And then it clicked in my head one day that, in fact, I see this happening every day, except these boys and girls don't realize that there, inside of themselves, is their power, is their superhero. And we needed to, at Arise, shine this light so that they can change their world and rise up victorious. But when you hear about the boys on the Cape Flats or similar communities, the last thing you think about is the fact that they are indeed heroes. They just need a little help realizing it for themselves. So, look at this picture. What do you see? What do you think? Gangster, thug, naughty, prison, fatherless, dropout, addict, tick, violent, robber? Well, all the things that you may be thinking or saying is what many of our boys and girls think and say to themselves because they see it, hear it, and feel it. We know as health professionals is when children start hearing and feeling the negative labels given to them, they start acting it out because they start believing that all these things are true about them. And this affects their self-esteem and self-worth. At Arise, our #1 goal is to strip these labels away from our children and for them to search within themselves and find their inner strength that is within and to build on it. So, you orchestrated some boys to bunk school with you. Well, there's a potential to be a leader. You decided to cheat by bringing notes through a pen. Strategic thinker. Gang violence in the community, but you continue to go to school. Well, you have great dedication and commitment. But we know our children cannot do this alone. For our children to reach their full potential, they need support from their home. Like all of us, we need others to highlight or unlock our potential inside of us. Think every time a superhero wants to give up, they had someone to remind them who they really are. Think about S.H.I.E.L.D. They brought the Avengers together and they realized who they are together. Just like Spider-Man, who lost his parents and then lost his one and only male caregiver, Uncle Ben. Okay, maybe I'm the comic geek now too. While many of our children in South Africa are growing up without a biological caregiver or have no adult role models in their life and are suffering with grief and loss, lack of attachment, and a sense of belonging, which are the foundations for all children to thrive. Global research shows that for any child to be successful and to thrive, they need one caregiver that can give a secure relationship with. A relationship that helps them feel safe and help model good coping mechanisms. It's a way of helping our children build resilience. These are like the superhero shield. It protects our children from the toxic stress they face, like poverty, violence, drugs, and many other adversities. And this helps them build resilience and for them to power through. Children need their caregivers. Superheroes are stronger together. Think of Avengers, or if you're a DC fan, think about the Justice League, though they're not as cool as the Avengers, let's be honest. But strength together can overcome the many adversities. It doesn't mean you won't suffer or have pain, but it means you can learn from these experiences and bounce back and try again. Think Avengers Endgame. We all thought Thanos was going to conquer the universe, and there was great loss in part 1. But part 2 saw the Avengers come back together like never before. Through our Raising Superhero program, we have seen both parents and children find their inner strength that they've had all along, shine through. Arise works with both parents and children to discover not only their strength within themselves, but the strengths within each other. And this then creates that secure relationship by stripping each other's negative labels, building that attachment, deepening relationship and trust, which is needed for problem solving and overcoming life's challenges. We have seen strong connections being made. We have seen small pockets of our communities grow together and look out for one another, strengthen each other, and help each other. We have seen our young boys strip away their labels, put on their capes of strength and honor, face their challenges by persevering through school, taking responsibility for their actions and change, and ultimately rise up victorious over the villains in their lives, be it gangs, drugs, and many more. Though the world sees darkness, we know there is light, and when we are brave enough to shine that light in the darkness, how many more young children will realize their inner strength? So when you hear about the Cape Flats in the news, remember right there are superheroes just waiting to be given the chance to thrive. I want to encourage you with this. Everyone has a vested interest in everyone else's children, because everyone else's children determines the next adult population that makes for a successful society. Therefore, when you strengthen a family, you can strengthen a community. Will you join me at Arise as we start raising superheroes? Thank you.
Lovely. Thanks so much, Danny.
Thank you.
So how long have you been doing this for now? Kind of up until now.
Well, I've been at Arise, the NGO out in Hedeford, for over 5 years now. And we work with children and families and looking within their strengths and building resilience. We'd love to take away all the adversities that they face, such as poverty and violence. But what we've realized is once we're able to give the tools for both children and families to overcome those adversities, then that's the impact that we want to make.
I fully agree with that, and I've always believed, and I'd love to hear your insight on this, is I believe that no one can necessarily empower someone else. Only you can empower yourselves. But if you're given the environment with the right, like you said, the tools, the feedback, and the space, you can empower yourself, and you can allow that to happen. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think, the environment impacts all of us. So you need to imagine and think about people and our families and our children, the community that they live with, they're faced with lots of adversity, lots of violence. Schools, in not only on the Cape Flats, but in our country, is also a place of violence. And unfortunately, a lot of our homes is also a place of violence. So we need to be able to create this safe space so that children can realize, yes, all of these things are happening, but what is it within myself that I can do? And what is my strength within myself to overcome that? And that I don't have to continue those cycles, that I can be different and overcome.
And how can people reach you? What is it? What's the website or anything if they want to get activated and try help from the audience that's watching?
Yeah, you can visit our website page, which is www.arisefamily.org, and we are on Facebook and Instagram, which is Arise Family SA.
Perfect, and it's not the American spelling with the Z; it's an S, right?
SA, yes.
Just checking. Cool. Thank you so much. I'll chat to you afterwards as well.
Thank you.
Cheers. All right, Jess, I can see you.
Hello.
Jess, I'm really looking forward to it. You are the last speaker for this evening. So thank you so much for being so patient. And yeah, I think let's go straight to it. I think it's such a, from all the topics we've heard tonight and different insights, I think yours is even a completely different perspective on everything as well. So I think it's a great way to, finish it off. No pressure, of course. But I think enjoy it, and I'll chat to you afterwards.
Great, thank you, Grant. Sure, what a stage to be on. So incredibly inspiring. Yeah, so this evening it's a talk about birds, bees, and other lessons from nature. And I'm Jess. I'm an instructional designer. I'm a biomimicry practitioner. I work with a company called Rewild Africa, and I am the managing director of a company called Biomimicry. So many of us growing up, we were given the talk about birds and bees, but if you're anything like little nature dork me, you would have been very disappointed that there were in fact no birds and bees mentioned in this talk. And in fact, there were actually many missed opportunities for other real lessons that we could have gotten from nature instead. But as it turns out, we grew up into this incredibly crazy self-destructive society. And we're in the midst of this fourth industrial revolution that we have this incredible technology and products and everything else, but we're actually just creating problems at an unprecedented kind of rate because of the models that we're following. And I would say that this is pretty close to the #1 culprit for bad models, which is the take, make, waste paradigm, where we extract raw materials, we make them into some terrible product, and then we just waste it, and that's it. It's hugely inefficient and harmful at every single step of this actual process. So I would wager that we need some better models and a better mentor. So how about we look outside, and how about we relook those birds and those bees and perhaps even entire ecosystems? And how about we potentially start to see nature as our mentor and as our model? And how could we possibly do this? How could we speak to nature? Well, it's going from learning about nature, which is our kind of classic Victorian way of doing things, and instead we're learning from nature. And when we start to shift our lens to learning from nature, we start to go, wow, there are examples here on how to harvest water and how to create self-healing materials and how to create healthy habitats. And how do we do this? So this is a field called biomimicry, where bio means life and mimic means to actually imitate. And it's not new, it's been around for a really long time, but it was really kind of formalized in '97 when Janine Benyus released her seminal book called Biomimicry Innovation Inspired by Nature. So it's really a practice, it's a worldview, it's a methodology, it's a tool set that actually helps us to build products and processes and systems that are thriving and resilient and adaptable. It's not just sustainable. It's not the do less bad. It's a shifting to actually saying, let's do more good. And where can we do more good? Well, as it turns out, everywhere. And as I go through the next section, I'd just like to take you through a couple of different industries where examples have actually started to be applied from nature. So how about we look at non-toxic healthcare, where a slug was able to inspire scientists to create biodegradable, non-toxic bandages that can actually work in very wet environments, or a shark and the nanoscale texture of its skin that can create inspiration for product surface coatings that are actually antibacterial in and of themselves. And in energy capture, we look at trees, which are actually covered in very edible solar panels, as it turns out, or how whales can give us lessons in hydrodynamics and energy efficiency, revolutionizing the wind turbine industry through energy savings and energy capture. We can look at inspiration into creating healthy habitats, where we look at buildings that, like the Eastgate Centre in Harare, that actually doesn't require any air conditioning systems because it's based on termite mounds, or how trees can inform places like the Copenhagen waste processing plant in Denmark. We have material design, where a company called Spiber has emulated the non-toxic proteins found in spider silk to create new materials. And we look at how coral can teach us to create better building materials that actually sequester carbon dioxide and lock it away instead of using it up and creating it. And we can look at different business models, like distributed business models modeled on ecosystems, and how these are actually diverse and interconnected systems where waste is cycled instead of being dumped. And we can look at creating new value through water remediation services based on wetlands. Whew. So this is all emulation, right? But what really separates biomimicry from other kind of bio-inspired practices is the idea of the ethos that goes behind it, and the reconnection. So we're reconnecting to nature, but we're also reconnecting to each other in our different kind of fields. And when we do this, we're actually able to create what's known as the circular economy, where all of our products are cycled. They're broken down into benign constituents and cycled. And you'll notice that there's actually no waste in the cyclical processes here. So everything is used up at every single point. And what better model could there be for cyclical, no waste problems than the closed loop system that is our planet? There's no way to import anything off of this planet. It all has to actually survive here, thrive here, and be regenerative. So what better models could there actually be for a healthy kind of system? And often we get this, dystopian future thing, look at those Marvel movies. And it's, we just go, oh, it could be so terrible, and we'll just rely on government, which will inevitably fail us. Or we can actually create living, thriving systems where it is completely decentralized and regenerative. And in order to get there, does that mean that we need to kind of go back and give up all of our creature comforts and be complete fundamentalists? No, unless you really want to. But it means that we can combine our human cleverness with the genius of nature and actually learn from it to really solve some of our biggest challenges. And if you would like to know more about this, you can go to our new online courses at learnbiomimicry.com, where we can take you from the fundamentals all the way through to the more complex kind of thinking. And that is that.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Jess. I find it very interesting how the building design has completely taken off. And I think specifically what I've heard and watched documentaries on is Switzerland, where they've really taken it whole. In South Africa, can you give me an example, perhaps?
Less so in the building sector, but there are loads of different examples of where they've started to look at kind of, what's the word I'm looking for now? My brain is frazzled. Looking at kind of town planning and economic development areas, where it's actually far more integrated, and we look at what's known as creating where your development is functionally indistinguishable from the ecosystem that you're replacing. So how does it filter water? How does it actually cycle and clean air? How does it create nutrients? And how do you get all of these ecosystem services happening within this? And I mean, there are quite a few examples that are happening like that, which is really exciting.
Great. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for being on. I loved how completely different and dynamic that was, so really appreciate it. All right, so just to all the audience members, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We are going to have a chat with all the speakers, but most importantly, don't go away. We need your vote. We have got, if Kate, can you please put up the vote for the 3 initiatives for tonight, the community initiatives. So it says there 8,000 Rand. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to choose the top 2. So if you vote, the top 2 initiatives we're going to contribute. And I just want to say that in the space of 40 minutes, we have raised an extra 2,000 Rand from everyone donating. So we're going to make that pot now 10,000 Rand, and we're going to split it two ways. So basically 5,000 Rand for each to make sure that it is effective for those initiatives. So please vote Mandisi with the Khayelitsha Theatre Initiative, Mahadi with her Urban Farm Initiative. She's also got a website out there. And then Danny with the Superheroes in the Cape Flats, or more specifically Arise. And really, really looking forward to everyone actually creating a difference here and with your votes. And thank you to everyone that has actually bought a ticket, and thank you to everyone that has contributed in addition to that. 2,000 Rand, it's a lot, for these hyper-local initiatives. So Kate, how's it looking there?
Okay, so we're looking pretty good. I'm just going to leave it open for a little bit longer because it's still climbing.
Cool. Great. And what I will actually just quickly, while we wait for that poll, I'm actually just going to quickly share my screen, because I want to show everyone something. I want to show you. So you'll see my screen now. This is Cape Town. This is the typical Cape Townian way of ticket sales. So you can see nothing, and then right over here, right at the end, 7 days before. I mean, basically from here you'll see actually the 8th of June. So yesterday, and then today. So that is in true fashion arriving right towards the end. So thank you everyone for pushing through and for allowing us to actually make tonight happen. We had over 190 people join, which is incredible. And I know that normally on average you times that by 2 because more than one person watches. So that's that's basically that's how much we actually get per night on an offline event. So a massive thank you to everyone for joining in on that. That makes a huge difference, and we're looking forward to doing this again. So Kate, how's the poll looking?
Okay, so we've stopped. Let's share it with you guys. Give me a second.
Right, we're going to share it with everyone. So the 2 initiatives that will each be receiving 5,000 will be Mandisi, your Khayelitsha Theatre Initiative. You'll be getting 5,000 Rand contribution from the PechaKucha fan base. So thank you so much. And to Danny for the Superheroes in Cape Flats. And I think Mahadi, what we will do is we will make sure that we share to all of our networks about your website to make sure that everyone can come and support, because I think with the PechaKucha fan base, people can still get a hold of you. And I think that's going to be brilliant to see as it goes on through. All right. Okay, so the final one before I get to the speakers, it's very important that we get feedback from you as the attendees and supporters. So Kate, can we do the final poll? This is the call it the drum roll. All right. So how did you enjoy our first online live streaming, PechaKucha Night number 58 for PechaKucha Cape Town? Yay, loved it. Great work. All right, or give me another bottle of red. So I think just choose that, choose which option you want and believe in, and we will take that feedback seriously, because we definitely want to do another night. We definitely want to make sure that this happens consistently, even if we're not able to do the offline events as well. So we're gonna wait until Kate gives the go ahead there. And I think also just thank you very much to PechaKucha, the global team. Thank you to Mark, and thank you to Brian. Brian is in the background. Brian, where are you?
Brian, are you there?
It'd be cool to.
Why don't you say a quick hello?
To spotlight Brian, because he's always been behind the scenes and he streamed it across to Tokyo. There we go.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you, Brian.
I got my I'm so happy to be representing Cape Town. Yeah. Got some Cape Town love for you guys. It was a great night. Thank you for having me along. Congratulations. I'm looking forward to the next event. Great job, Grant. Great job, team. Here, onwards and upwards.
Thank you. And
yeah, and all the presentations will be on, we'll be putting all the presentations up on PechaKucha.com as well. So they'll be up in a couple of days or so. We'll be working with Grant and everybody to do that. So they'll be spread far and wide. They're really great presentations tonight. I'm going to sign off now. It's 4 o'clock in the morning here.
Brilliant.
So have a great night, guys. All right.
Cheers,
okay.
guys. Cheers.
Good night.
And I think on that note, we've also received the feedback. 64% of people said, great, amazing. And I think it just disappeared now, but I think we were literally, oh, there we go. So we basically had 98%, saying great work and yay, I loved it. So thank you very much to everyone for the support. We really do appreciate it. And we will make sure now we do another one. And I just want to also say a big thank you to all the PechaKucha volunteers behind the scenes, and specifically Kate for really just, I don't know about you guys, but did we have any glitches? I think it was brilliantly done from Kate's side. So thank you so much, Kate, for the PowerPoint and managing the speakers. And I know it is quite hectic to
probably the most stressful evening of my life.
Well, have you at least got a bottle of wine there? Or
I've got a beer, so I'm okay.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Kate. That is, I can't believe that we never had any technical glitches. So I'm really happy about that, and it just means that we can do the next one even with more confidence now. So I think let me jump. I mean, if you are still watching, we still got actually over 100 people still watching. So if you want to look at all the speakers, what you're able to do, and also the volunteers, is on the top right of your desktop, just click the gallery view. So not the speaker view, but the gallery view, and that will allow you to see everyone, a tile of everyone. And I just want to actually start with the last 4 speakers that spoke. Can I first chat with, let's go actually from the end to the beginning side. So Jess, I think from your side, you're based in Cape Town, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Great. And what is it that you found? Like, how are you navigating now with this different environment? Are you working remotely? Are you finding that, it's a struggle? Like, share about that.
Yeah, so working remotely, absolutely been holed up in an apartment with my husband for like 3 months now. Still happily married, so we're doing something right. It's been a super interesting transition, I must say. I'm working basically in an online education space. So that was like a whole industry that virtually, it just shot through the roof overnight, and we're going, oh, we weren't prepared for this. So in some ways we're really fortunate because it changed things for better for myself and the team. But on the other hand, it was suddenly so strange because you're so, I work with a very close team, and suddenly, have this weird distance that everything's kind of, over Skype, and, all your nuances are lost, and you're kind of trying to grow a business, and you're trying to have all these really challenging kind of conversations that go with starting a business. And you're like, yeah. Sorry about the connection dropping there in this really tense moment. But
the real hassle.
It's totally different, and I feel quite different in like a lot of the conversations have been really challenging around job loss and around displacement and around everything else. And I have to just be totally honest, and I'm very fortunate to not be in that boat, but still doing a heck of a lot of learning. Yeah,
and I think that's exactly the mindset to have. And I think, yeah, thank you very much for sharing. I think it's something I don't think we've, especially from this PechaKucha Cape Town side, we've had someone talk about biomimicry. So I think that's a great first as well to have. So thank you very much for your time and just for sharing openly about everything. And I think let me go to Danny. So Danny, first of all, congrats on getting a contribution from PechaKucha. So please make sure that you send in terms of what you do with the money in terms of the kids and the community. Please just make sure that you share that, because we'd love to share that also on the PechaKucha site as well. But I think just tell me what are the next steps? What is the daily grind that you're gonna that you continue to get involved in, and what is your number one priority right now that you're focused on? Make sure that you're mute.
There we go. So I think we've had to adapt to COVID-19, and one of the big thing is food insecurity for our families, and they can't thrive without food in their bellies. So we've been giving out food parcels, like many amazing NGOs doing the same thing. A lot of our families are, dependent on grants, and so we've been doing home visits actually. So what we do is we visit people at their homes to deliver food, being able to check in, see how they're doing, as well as being able to give hygiene packs and masks as well. And then in order to continue the education and support for families that really need it, we've started WhatsApps, videos and voice notes, just to encourage and support grands and aunts and uncles who are looking after kids that are really struggling. Our kids are at high risk and have behavioral problems, and so they need the tools to be able to help and guide. This week has been a very sad week on the Cape Flats. A lot of our kids have been shot at. We've had a 6-year-old being shot while sleeping in his bed. And so all of this impacts people. And especially now going back to school, there's a lot of trauma. So how do we help schools, teachers, and kids being able to adapt to a new way of life, and also deal with the complex trauma and the generational trauma that we're seeing right now, and in the context that we're dealing with, especially race dynamics in our country.
Yeah, especially, I mean, even just from the global point now, in terms of the Black Lives Matter movement happening. And I mean, I don't know even if you've seen with, I know this is a slight digression, but as in even something as international as a CrossFit gym, for example, the guy going completely out of bounds with regards to the insensitivity around, the Black Lives Matter movement and just discrimination as a whole. People are completely dissociating themselves now from CrossFit, and that's a business that might even just now go, just because people feel so strongly for the fact that people do need to be treated with dignity, and actually there needs to be that awareness of your position versus another's, and so on.
Yeah, and I think one thing that Arise does so well is we highlight the systematic racism that we face as a country, and especially our communities. Children are falling in the gaps of our educational system, our health system, our social development system. And so it's really important, if we want families to thrive, that we continue highlighting these conversations. And as South Africans, we need to have these discussions as well. I
fully agree, hey. Well, thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to seeing, the great contribution. And I think that's it. It's not necessarily that we need to just rely on government. We need to just rely on the community. We need to rely on our networks. We need to make sure that we're doing this to the people, or providing and supporting the people that are actually doing things with the means and with the capacity that they have able to do it. So thank you very much. Yeah. Off to Dean. So Dean, speaker number 7. So I think for you now, you said you've been doing this, you've been sharing about the Spanish flu and the learnings. I think, do you then agree with this whole, from a history point of view, let your hindsight be your foresight, or, that type of area, like learning from that mistake, or what do you see then going forward?
Well, first of all, Grant, thank you for the opportunity for tonight, and well done to you and your team. I think it was a fantastic effort, and the speakers were outstanding. As a historian, I decided to, make a contribution. As you probably know, I'm more famous for talking about sport and history in South Africa. But so during lockdown, I sat here in the wilderness, and it gave me an opportunity to think, how could I make a contribution? And I went back into the information online, into the archives, and I realized there were so many lessons we could learn from history. And one of them, big comparisons, as I explained tonight, was what happened 100 years ago with the Spanish flu. And I'm going to quote Rudyard Kipling here, that he said that we would all remember our history if it was told in the form of stories. And that's what I try to do with my presentations. I give stories. I put up, as I said, these wonderful old pictures, but behind them there's an important message. There are so many comparisons with what we're going through today with what has actually been happening through history, and we can learn those lessons. I mean, a lot of people paid with their lives throughout history, not heeding those lessons. We can see now in South Africa, for example, this is something that affected all of us, and it did back in 1918. I mean, I didn't have the chance during my presentation, but I could drop some names here. People like Franklin D. Roosevelt, Lloyd George, Gandhi, Walt Disney, Disney. They're all affected by the 1918 Spanish flu. Today, of course, we've got people like, you know, Boris Johnson, who was in intensive care. So these viruses do not respect status, background, wealth, or anything. And so, yeah, I've given this presentation to groups around the world, Pakistan, Spain, the United States. In between, I also talk a bit of sport as well. I'm doing my rugby interviews on a Thursday evening with the Springboks, which is quite an opportunity. So, yeah, it's been great.
Brilliant. Yeah. Well, I seriously thank you so much. And I think that keep on doing it. And I think the learnings from all of this is something that, I mean, that's never going to expire. So thanks again for being on the show, and thanks for your support as well and your time.
Pleasure.
And Mahadi, are you there? Mahadi? Yes. Okay. So how did you find this experience, by the way?
I loved it. I loved it.
Running a business.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I loved connecting with all the other speakers, and I actually found that me and Jess share a common thread. She talking about circular systems. I'm actually doing a talk next week with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation on circular food systems. So I found that I was like, oh my word, this is, you know, yeah. So it was very, for me, this was so eye-opening for me. I'm like so grateful to everybody. I've learned so much. I love what Danny's doing. It's just wow. And Mandy's is just so moving for me. What I'm trying to do is, you know, get people off the social development, social grant system, and create opportunities for themselves. So I'm all about entrepreneurship, which is why for me, I want my women to create their own opportunities. I mean, they're already farmers. I want to create spaces where they can sell their produce and not have to depend on grants, and they can actually make their own money. So, because that's more sustainable, you know, it's more sustainable than living off the grant, because the grant system is really not sustainable, and it takes away a lot of, you know, people want to work. People want to work. People want to feel useful. Community food gardens for me are very important also, because they're more sustainable. You know, you get a community to create a garden that they work, and they actually create food, and they can sell whatever, you know. You'll never have people sitting on the sidewalks begging if there's a food garden that's available for them to eat. So for me, I'm all about creating circular food system, circular economies. So people actually, you know, it's not just linear. It's not just taking and taking and taking. You can actually create something that goes on and on and on, and can give you food throughout the year. So
Mahadi, I think I must actually get my fiance on board, because I mean, I have to recycle everything. I mean, I literally I'm literally gonna tell her to reach out to you, because she's got a like something that I think she can definitely you know, kind of connect with. So I'll make sure of that. And I think Jean-Paul, he actually had a question for you. He said, can you elaborate on why 1/3 of food is wasted in South Africa?
Like I said, initially, you know, farmers, if you don't sell your produce within a certain period of time, it gets wasted. And it's so much, people produce so much food that they actually throw it away, because it's not according, and most of it is like what they call ugly food. So if it doesn't fit the criteria for the supermarket, if it's not straight, if the carrots are not straight, if, you know, if the cucumbers
begin with the W and end with the uli.
Yes, so they throw that stuff away, you know. And for years, I mean, I had a problem with that. For years, people would throw, even restaurants, they wouldn't give the food away. They wouldn't donate it to people, because it's like, no, what if we get sued? What if they get sick? They'd rather throw that food away. So it's that kind of, people throw food away for all sorts of reasons, but mostly the farmers, it's because obviously it doesn't fit a certain criteria, or they've produced too much and they're not selling at the markets. There's not enough demand, or market is, so it's food that's quite edible, that still can be used, but doesn't fit into a certain mold, that gets wasted. And most of
I
it
agree.
also actually happens in our kitchens. You know, you buy a whole lot of food, you keep it in the drawer of your fridge, it goes off, you throw it out. Stuff that you could have frozen and eaten or created a pickle, or do you know what I'm saying? Other ways to preserve the food. Is just we don't know how to preserve food. And I think that's also another way, another thing that we need to learn as humans going forward. You know, food is life. Food is life. You know, there's people. We are food insecure in this country. There's people going to sleep with no food, and yet we throw so much food away. It's wrong. It's completely wrong. You know, we need to change. And I think COVID has actually exposed that in our systems. It's exposed that. And we as humans going forward, we need to think about those things. You can't just throw food away. You know, you can't. So I think if anything, if anything, I think because a lot more people are going food insecure, even people who had jobs 2 months ago are now going to be food insecure. So it's going to make you think again. Before you throw food out, you'll be like, you know, maybe I could do something with it. Maybe I could donate it. Maybe I could, you know what I'm saying? So I think COVID has created an opportunity for everyone to really awaken to the pandemic that we have. Yeah.
Well, thank you, because I think this is exactly what you know, is the insight that we need. And yeah, thank you very much for also being on the show.
Thank you for being here. I've learned so much. Thank you.
Likewise.
Thank you.
And I think I'm going to move to Mandisi, because Mandisi, you have to head off now. But Mandisi, first of all, again, also congrats on the you know, on getting also a contribution for your theatre, and of course for all the good that you're also doing within your space. I think from your side, tell me what are for you the next steps of you know, what you need to focus on as well. I'm interested to hear.
I cannot run away from the fact that we did not start this at this time of the pandemic. It's something that we have been doing for years. So it's something that is not going to stop, but it's one thing that is going to go forward, because our aim is all about teaching young people to become leaders, teaching young people to become self-reliant, and also to be able or to be independent. You understand? In our schools, in our high schools, we were taught to go and work at ShopRite, to go and work at Pick and Pay. We were never taught that we can franchise or we can own ShopRite and Pick and Pay. So that's exactly what we are doing. We are instilling another mindset in the township. As Mandy is someone who has a degree in theatre, I was privileged enough to stay in town and enjoy my degree and work for any company or go even overseas. But I've sacrificed myself and told myself that we want to tap into the townships and be with the people where we want them to be woke or to be awakened or to understand so many other things. So this thing is not going to stop. We're still going to implement more theaters. And fortunately, when we become billionaires, we're going to build those theaters or whatever that the government is going to like. But definitely, what I'm starting to tap on is that, you know, when the ANC started to be in power around 1994, they started to say together we can do more. And then the statement changed around 2007 and said, Vuka uzenzele, which is what we are doing right now. As young people throughout the world or throughout South Africa, we are waking up. And regardless of color or race, black, white, color, Indian, young people right now, they're trying to say, or they're trying to voice out the fact that it is our time now to change the world. So my thing is all about changing the world, man, and inspiring young people who are not inspired.
Well, I can say that what you just said now is pure servitude and serving others, you know, in the most selfless way, and it's something that inspires me. It's something that, you know, gives me energy, and thank you so much for being here. And I think that, you know, you also made a big effort, you know, to make this happen for this as well. So thank you very much for being here, and good luck for the rest. And we look forward to seeing what happens. All right.
Good. Thank you very much. Yeah, I have prepare for my 17th Zoom meeting.
Cheers, Mandisi. All right, so I think everyone, you know, you're welcome to turn on your mics or your unmute. because I don't, I'm not necessarily going to go in order then. So I think if I jump to, I think let me even jump to Marisa. I think, you know, as our speaker coordinator at PechaKucha even, you know, I think you really do add a huge amount of structure and reliability, and that communication between the speakers, and also telling us who is our speaker and who isn't our speaker that we need to go coordinate with. So Marisa, tell us how like kind of from your experience tonight, what is it that truly stood out for you?
I just love it when a good plan comes together. You know, it's always even surprising. You see all the speakers, you see their presentations, you see certain things, and it's just magic, you know, on the night, because we don't hear them. I mean, I've had the privilege of hearing maybe one or two before, but nobody ever hears all 9 beforehand, you know. So it's the magic of letting the universe take care of the details.
And have you thought of any ideas of what we should do next time? I mean, did you think, you know, what we were doing, what was good, or like maybe an idea? Putting you on the spot. Did you hear me?
Sorry, Grant, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I was saying that. Did you have any ideas of what we could possibly introduce now in this online environment? You know, from tonight or not? Can you not hear me? Is it just me? Is it me?
Maybe I can take that question. Maybe.
Yeah.
I just will say that every event has done their. I've seen 20 some odd of these events happen, and it was great to see a whole slew of new tactics being used in Cape Town's event. So congratulations on. I'm gonna take some of the things that worked really well, and I'm going to share them with the rest of PechaKucha Night organizers. So you guys your event tonight was fantastic, and we'll be sharing those techniques with organizers around the world.
Oh, that's brilliant! Thank you so much, Brian. Well,
yeah, Marisa, good, very great job, and technically excellent, technically perfect. Great job.
Great. Well, brilliant. Thank you. And I think let me jump to who we got now. So we've got, okay, so, and we've still got just under 50 people watching. So I think let me jump also to, I'm interested to hear from Gary, actually. Gary, you know, you're always, I mean, you should have, you know, tonight, you know, if this was an offline event, you would have been taking the portfolio pictures, making sure that the speakers look beautiful, you know, and tell us what you thought and kind of what you've also drawn from tonight as inspiration.
Well, first, it was great to just be able to sit back and drink a glass of wine and not have to stress like Kate. It was really cool. All I've got to instruct everybody is to just send through a really cool selfie of themselves before for their picture. My job's done, but I was just talking about it now, and I thought it was absolutely amazing. It was relatively seamless. The content was fantastic. The slideshows and the pictures were great. And besides whatever the next selection of speakers is, I have absolutely no suggestions for the next show, but just to do it exactly the same as this one. I really thought it went really, really well. And congrats to all the speakers. It was amazing. Every presentation was really fantastic. Started to follow a lot. And keen to sort of see how everybody does moving forward and how we can contribute further.
And I think just for everyone, I think just feel free to add in here. You know, I think, you know, from Lloyd in terms of how you even found everything, you know, connected. I mean, everyone had a theme, but it was all, you know, it wasn't a COVID theme that we were doing tonight, but it was just what the positive consequence, even though there's been a tremendous amount of negative, you know, in terms of this pandemic, but it's the positive consequences that have been created in a very interconnected way. And it seems like every speaker had some sort of connectivity in terms of what they were sharing tonight. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's a weird dynamic that I've picked up over this lockdown period, again, without getting too philosophical about it. And that is the sense of people actually seeking out the good and the funny, actively seeking it out. They, you know, we live our normal daily lives where we sit in the car and we bitch and moan about the traffic and you don't make eye contact with anyone. Now we're all walking around like this and you're forced to make eye contact with people. And I've just seen almost like this collective shift in people where everyone is sort of being positive. And I picked that up tonight from everyone's presentation as well. There was a lot of COVID content, but there was just an awful lot of positivity around it. It wasn't a negative thing, it was a positive thing.
Yeah, I've never thought of it like that. So I think that's that's an awesome observation. And I think, yeah, to everyone, you're welcome to unmute yourselves. Anything else that you picked up on tonight with how you found everything going? I think we've got 5 minutes left for tonight. So just any other closing, yes, Jess, you were putting your hand up.
Yeah, it feels very schooly. I just wanted to say that absolutely well done to the team. It was incredible, so beautifully handled. And I just wanted to say that I think a theme that emerged for me in a lot of the talks was this idea of kind of maybe not self-reliance, but people kind of digging in and solving problems and creating opportunities in their own sectors, in their own industries, in their own neighborhoods, in their own fields. And for me, that was just so incredibly heartening to see that there are so many there's a lot of work to be done, but there are so many different ways of doing it, and that people are doing it, and it's not just sitting back and waiting for salvation. There's a lot of incredible work being done. So yeah, thank you. So I wanted to add that.
And would you say then it's not necessarily that there's a right way of doing something, it's just doing something, just actually doing something, not worrying about is this the perfect way to, no, just flip and jump and start moving and doing stuff.
I think so. I think that's always the problem, is when you kind of wait for the right way. There is no right way. It's a matter of doing it, as you say. And I think just the everyone's kind of got this incredible outlook, the way of seeing the world. I think it was Lloyd, maybe you mentioned that earlier. And like you're shifting your perspective, and it really is that everyone's kind of shifting towards opportunities, which is incredible.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I think, guys, we don't have, we've got about 3 more minutes left, but I just also want to say a specific thank you to Terry. You're on here as well, for helping us with Zoom and making that possible. And behind the scenes, Andre wasn't even here. I don't know where he was, but Andre for allowing us to use his account. I must change the name from Grand Grief now to Andre.
I'll fix it for you. And the photograph.
Thanks, Terry. And I think also, Nige for making sure and for being call at the fire under this to, just say, come on, guys, we need to do this. We need to keep on going. So thank you so much for everything. Like you said, or like Andrew was saying, you're the, not the oldest, but the longest standing PechaKucha committee member.
Grant, I am the oldest, and that's cool. We're all going to get there. Grant, I just want to say thank you to you. You're just been amazing. You and Kate and Marisa, you guys have really, this has been so technically amazing. I really had my doubts, and you guys have done so well. And all the speakers, it's been so inspiring. I mean, really, you guys are amazing. Cape Town rocks. Absolutely rocks.
Brilliant. Well, I agree, and thank you so much. Thank you always for the support and the guidance as well. And I think, personally from my side, then to Kate, hard grafting, and don't be shocked if you get a little delivery, maybe a bottle of wine or something like that, from the PK team. Because I think what you did tonight, being that rock to allow the structure to happen. I think as Nige said, it's very seldom that it just happens seamlessly. And I think also just to the speakers for having the ability to stream and not necessarily to have any hesitation there or lagging. So I think that's epic. So I think to sum this up, to the speakers still on, Jess, Dean, Danny, Lloyd. And is there anyone else? No. And then of course to Brian, and then of course to our incredible volunteer team. Thank you everyone for making this possible. Thank you to the attendees and our supporters. You know, we literally contributed, you know, 10,000 Rand today to 2 initiatives that are really making a difference. And that's what matters. And what you do next, what you do tomorrow is going to, you know, change in a small way and create that ripple effect of doing good. So I encourage everyone to take that inspiration, turn it into action, and let's continue doing this. And thank you so much for trusting in us to host this and for the support. Cheers to everyone.
Thanks, Grant.